whatever, lay individual blame. I think we could probably blame more than just the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Were there not 5 legs to the parlay, and I believe only Matt Painter's Boilers hit?
Well, I didn't get to the point of putting Ball State on. I thought that was a little too wild. So I avoided using Ball State, but then...
You thought that part was too wild?
That was too wild. That was too out of control for my taste. But no, the Notre Dame, I think, was the first final that cost me. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, Indiana's getting their doors blown off. The Pacers got their doors blown off in Portland. Okay. It's a night where maybe pop a drink open and just kind of like, hey, wife asks if you have any bets placed. Yeah, for the Super Bowl. Let's not worry about tonight. We march on.
We'll make it up with what book A.J. Brown will be reading on the sidelines on Sunday at the Super Bowl. Good Wednesday morning to you. That was Mark Dykton. I'm Kevin Bowen. Kylan Talley once again on the ones and twos. We appreciate her for that. We will recap a ton of basketball from last night. Again, pretty rare to have so much action around the state. It was a late night, and you were not rewarded whatsoever if you stayed up for whatever the hell that was at the Kohl Center, which is par for the course, and I guess whatever that hell that was at the Rose Garden, which is also par for the course with both Indiana, the Hoosiers, and the Pacers. But we do wake up on this Wednesday morning, and the Boilers are atop the Big Ten, so that is certainly the norm. So thanks for spending this Wednesday with us. We'll get a little Super Bowl action. Zach Kiefer down in New Orleans. He'll join us coming up at 8:30. One thing I do want to talk with Zach about, he wrote a great piece on Mike Vanderjagt here recently. I know Vandy was on with Jake and Jimmy. I want to say that was, I don't know, at this point, probably a couple of months ago. But certainly one that doesn't hold back, and I really enjoyed that piece from Zach Kiefer. So we'll get his thoughts on what's happening down there. I believe he was at the media party late last night.
Oh, getting some gumbo and everything like that.
So we'll see if Zach Kiefer's a little, wobbly here when he joins us coming up.
What do they call those drinks? Oh, you've never been to New Orleans. They have like the grenades or whatever they're called.
Really?
Yeah.
Boy, that sounds like something you'd order in college.
That's what Travis Kelce got in trouble for.
See? Kylan
was
knows.
The grenades.
Well, yeah.
Okay, Kylan, ingredients?
Oh, gosh. I actually don't know. I just remember Mama Kelce. She was going off on him when he was headed to the championship. He's like, all right, I'm not going to be able to party as much. No grenades for me.
Interesting. Boy, that literally sounds like a shot of like Everclear and more Everclear and Goldschlager and just something horrible.
Tropical Isles hand grenade drink, New Orleans' most powerful drink.
Powerful.
I'm trying to see what the recipe is. But yeah, it comes in like one of those giant glasses, but it's a grenade at the bottom. It's a big green glass.
Well, that sounds like probably what a lot of the teams or fans of the basketball teams here around need after last night. Let's begin with the Boilers here on this Wednesday morning. That was what you'd expect from them. Braden Smith continues to play like a first-team All-American, and with Michigan State losing last night at UCLA, Purdue at 10-2. They are the leaders in the Big Ten. 3 teams now with 2 losses, Michigan State and Michigan as well. Purdue will see Michigan again coming up here next week. They will go to Michigan State here later in the month of February. And I felt a little hesitant doing this about a week and a half ago, Mark, but I was like, you know what? There is a regional here at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the Boilers are not necessarily at that 1 seed line, but if you look at it, they are knocking on that door.
They're getting close.
They handled business last night. Again, Braden Smith, absolutely outstanding.
Him and Trey Kaufman ran both big games, so it was very good to see there. And like you said, they're getting hot at the right time. They're getting there, and they're climbing the ranks of the Big Ten. So looking very good there. Took a big care of business against Iowa, USC on the docket up next. So good job by Matt Painter's crew. Again, one of the few bright spots of last night with basketball.
31 for Braden Smith, 11 of 15 from the floor. I love the emotion. I just felt like at times, when you're in that road environment, that's just a big hangover opportunity for Purdue. That's a big grenade opportunity for Purdue.
Look at that.
They had about 3 of them on Monday night for some reason, celebrating what happened against Indiana. And yet, they handled it. I know it got close there late. Braden Smith had the big assist to Trey Kaufman-Renn to seal it. But the Westfield product, outstanding. So as Mark said, now Purdue will shift their attention. USC at home, it's the handle your business type week.
Yep.
It's a week that won't necessarily get a ton of attention nationally. That probably is looking more at next week's schedule for the Boilers, but they do a very nice job in Iowa City last night, 90-81.
Stay the course. No slip-ups here.
No slip-ups. They already had one, at home earlier this year in the Big Ten. If you stayed with Peacock for another 2-hour segment.
God bless you.
You needed more grenades.
Yeah. Just to get through you couldn't even get through the first TV timeout, and you're like, this game's over.
I'm going to be honest. As soon as I saw the starting lineup, I knew it was over. Like I said to you a couple times yesterday, Mark, I go, you need a starting lineup change. You need to reward those that gave the effort of arguably of the season.
Yeah.
Friday in West Lafayette. Sure enough, runs out the same starting lineup, and what was it? 13-2, 24-4. Just absolutely pathetic. It has the feel, and I don't think I'm stepping out of line here. It just has the feel of like, I don't know, maybe Doug Peterson with the Jags.
Yeah.
This
has run its course.
You know,
we're
it's
just running
over.
out the clock right now.
You know it's over. It's a former player. You're probably going to try to want to handle it as whatever, seamlessly, if that's the right word, or respectful as you can. But there's no business for Mike Woodson coaching this basketball team anymore.
And he's got no answers. I mean, you see him in post games, and he's just like, I don't know. We have to get off to better starts. I'm like, well, you're the coach. You need to be putting these players out in order to succeed. If you're trotting out the same lineup that's getting their doors blown off game in and game out, I don't know why you think repetition is going to necessitate change. So it's not been good. They seem like a dead team walking for the majority of the season. They really seem like they're just, at this point, they're just counting down the games at this point.
Purdue was picked to finish, first in the Big Ten, and where are they right now?
Right around there.
Indiana was picked to finish second in the Big Ten, and where are they?
Well, yeah. Start digging.
11th. 21 straight losses at the Colts Center. That's 4 straight for Indiana.
I mean,
this season, 6 of 7. It is going to be beyond awkward in there on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. You know that when they're showing old Bob Knight highlights, and it's as grainy as the day is long. That's how when you're like,
I had to squint to see if that was Michael Lewis out on the floor.
Ashley walked in and she's like, is this an old game? I'm like, no, that's the last time that Indiana actually won in Wisconsin. She's like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, we were all children back then.
Wasn't much better at all for the Pacers last night. Tyrese Haliburton had one of those performances we saw too often in October and November. 3 shot attempts for Haliburton. Rick Carlisle, he once again, I think, kind of played the I don't appreciate how Tyrese Haliburton was being officiated. I don't think I'm putting words in Rick's mouth. We'll play that audio here coming up in a little bit. But, Mark, that was very reminiscent, again, of what we've seen from Haliburton early this season. We really haven't seen a lot of it here in the last month and a half. The Pacers have one of their worst offensive nights of the year. In general, I thought the game had a very lethargic second night of a back-to-back feel for both teams. But Portland certainly pulled away in really impressive fashion there in the fourth quarter. So the Pacers lose the second night of a back-to-back. They will be now in L.A. for the Clippers coming up tomorrow night.
And Jared Weiss of The Athletic, who we're going to have on a little later in the show, he actually wrote up a piece about Tyrese Haliburton's early season struggle, so it's almost kind of fitting that we're having him on today after he kind of reverted back to those issues last night. So Jared's thoughts on how Haliburton kind of remedied that situation and why he seems like maybe he fell back into it last night, and how can he get out of it?
And, the Pacers and Haliburton, they've earned benefit of the doubt just with how they've played recently, but still. Last night, there was a little bit of a vibe from me of like, okay, is this going to be like Monday again?
I know.
McConnell and Neesmith were great, kind of start the fourth quarter, high energy, all that. They cut it to 6, and Haliburton came back on the floor. And, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, he can really rewrite the entire chapter for this night if he's able to do something here late. And Portland ripped off a huge run there, and they were able to beat the Pacers 112-89. That is the second fewest points the Pacers have scored all season. And now our attention shifts to the trade deadline coming up 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they end up doing any moves at the deadline. I don't anticipate that they will, but I mean, stranger things have happened. There's still some names out there in the NBA circles that could get dealt, some big-name guys. Jimmy Butler's still out there and everything like that. So I don't expect that kind of a trade for the Pacers, maybe a small one here or there. But if they're active, that'll be interesting. If they're not, I mean, it'll be kind of just, stay the course and see what you can do the rest of the season. But, I mean, do you anticipate them making any moves at this point? I don't.
If you made me pick yes or no, I'd probably say no.
Yeah.
But I mean, boy, I think the NBA has told us
no one's untradeable now.
Keep one eye open when you're sleeping. We should have spent the $10 on Girl Scout cookies.
Oh, wouldn't have to twist my arm for that.
Little Thin Mint action.
I know. Are those out and about now? I've not seen. I've not seen the stands yet.
They are.
Okay.
They are out and about.
We're out at
$10 Indiana parlay did not go well
I know.
at all.
I ate my sorrows at Chick-fil-A last night. There's a daddy-daughter event at one of the ones out there, so we went. Girls are dressed nice. I look somewhat
Twist
presentable.
your arm. Look at that.
I know. So I was eating some chicken nuggets and some, soda and everything like that.
Love that.
Girls had fun. It was a good time. Again, dressed like they were all dressed in pretty dresses. I looked somewhat presentable in a polo and everything like that. And then it was as the part of wrangling them out of the playground for 15 to 20 minutes after I said we had to go.
See, they took away the playground at our local Chick-fil-A. I was very confused by that.
Yeah. No, we're at the one in Whitestown. So they do it. Do it right out there. Shout out Whitestown Chick-fil-A.
Excellent. We'll be recapping a lot of hoops here on this version here of the Fan Morning Show. I did want to mention here before we hit a break, I guess an apology first. I felt like yesterday certainly had an awkward nature to the show, and I wanted to make sure that we were respectful of Andy and giving him the opportunity to address however he wanted to what happened on Monday. Andy and I texted a little bit back and forth yesterday, and he told me he was going to post something on Twitter. So, indeed, unfortunately, Andy will no longer be with us here on the morning show. I'm going to miss his energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to miss his passion for local radio. And I just thought he prepared so well. He wanted to be in this market. He really wanted to cover, the bigger market from an NFL standpoint, especially. And I don't know if everyone realizes this, but about 18 months ago, Andy and his wife Nikki moved here, and they had their son Mason 5 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark, I'll never forget getting that call from him. This was probably, he had been on the air for, that couldn't have been more than a couple weeks.
It might have been after the first week or something like that.
Very early.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, man, I think I'm out tomorrow. Nikki is going into labor. I'm like, yeah, there's no thinking. You are out. And I'll never forget getting that call. And it was actually on speakerphone. And Maddie was just like, can you imagine moving to a new city, being in a new market,
mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden that life event is thrown at you. So, I've never been in a different market. I think it's really, really difficult to be in that. And I thought Andy was just a pro in how he worked, frankly, how he handled Monday's show, if I could say that. And that's really admirable. So this industry has some great, great qualities, but, it can be taken from you pretty quickly. So I know Andy will land on his feet. That doesn't make it any easier, but I'll certainly be thinking about Andy, Nikki, how we affectionately called Mason Little Gas.
Mm-hmm.
So selfishly, I was a bit proud, Mark, of what we were starting to build, but for now, it'll be us three right here in the morning show the rest of the week. We'll keep you informed on that, and we really appreciate all of our listeners sticking with us.
Yeah, definitely feel for Andy. He didn't do anything wrong. He over-prepared for shows. He had his ears and stuff that I was like not even thinking about and everything, so he was always planning for the next show and everything like that. He was a hard worker. He's a great dude. Feel for him, for Nikki, and for Mason. So all the best to Andy. We'll keep in touch. It's not like, he's out of our lives forever. We're gonna keep in touch with him and everything like that. But yeah, he will for sure land on his feet and everything like that. But it is the very crappy side of this business that stuff like that has to happen on a day like that. So feel for him. Feel for Jimmy. It was not a fun day on Monday for anybody that works here.
Not at all. Not at all. Thanks for spending this Wednesday morning with us. This is the Fan Morning Show right here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. A lot of hoops talk here on this version of the Fan Morning Show. I will throw a mock draft towards Mark Dykton that might have me cleaning up puke. Later this morning, so we'll see.
I look forward to that.
Wouldn't be the first time. We'll see how that goes here. Coming up in a bit, Mark, I don't know. Do you want to start with the latest one? That would have been the Pacers last night?
Yeah, let's go to the pros right now. It was a busy ball night. It was ugly. The all-Indiana parlay, it died a quick and swift death. We go to the Pacers, though, to start. They got their doors blown off by the Trailblazers, 112-89. Tyrese Haliburton, a donut on the scoring sheet, only attempted 3 shots all game. Rick Carlisle was asked if the second night of a back-to-back played any role in the way the game unfolded, and he gave a very Rick Carlisle response.
They played an overtime game last night.
Right, sure.
So, I mean, what are we talking here? If anything, we should have been the team with the advantage, even though we traveled. We played earlier and everything else. We didn't play well. We settled early a few times when we shouldn't have. We got down early, had to dig out of a hole. It's not how you want to play on the road. I mean, you've got to set a tone, you got to play with attitude, and you got to be consistent, and we were not.
Just another back-to-back games of ugly shooting for the Pacers overall. 5 of 24 from three-point line, 76% from the free throw line, so not what you want to see if you're Indiana. They get back to work tomorrow night when they take on the Clippers. Also, the NBA trade deadline also tomorrow as well. Anything you want to add there, Kev?
Well, I think you got to mention Haliburton. I mean, 0 points, 0 for 3. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more trade deadline tomorrow, but you can't have that. And again, I know Rick Carlisle maybe wasn't as individually. Hey, we need more from him. He didn't really go there. We'll play that clip coming up in a bit, but yeah,
he hasn't shoot it more than 3 times.
Well, and then just 6 assists. It's not like he was in the full kind of distributor mode either. So Pacers lose 89 points, their second fewest of the season. 10:30 tomorrow night against the Clippers. All right, let's go to a little positive action here. That would have been the Boilers last night in Iowa City.
The lone bright spot.
Nothing like Purdue scoring more points than the Pacers.
Yeah.
90-81. Braden Smith was absolutely awesome. 40 minutes, 31 points, 11 of 15 from the floor. Matt Painter, how about your first-team All-American point guard?
We really wanted him to, after we made some adjustments about stuff, look to score more, look to drive the ball more than anything. Like get them on their heels, get them to put 2-3 people on the basketball, then get the ball out of your hands if they don't. And he obviously got a couple driving layups. But he's a great player, man. He gets it figured out. You can get him a little bit here and there, but he normally gets things figured out. And getting him to score has really helped our program. Because that's what we need. You go on the road and Trade gets in foul trouble or whatever, you got to have people step up that can create some things for themselves. You don't have that. Not every player that you have or they have can create for themselves, and it's a big piece if you got numerous guys who can do that and play at an efficient level.
Boy, spot on. Not every point guard has that ability. Braden Smith certainly does. Trey Kaufman-Renn, 25 and 7. I thought Caleb First gave them some quality minutes, and when Purdue woke up this morning, for those that didn't stay up late, they got some help from the Bruins of UCLA. Right now, Purdue at 10-2, tied atop the Big Ten. I guess technically they are ahead of Michigan State and Michigan. 9-2 the Spartans, 8-2 Michigan. They will see both of those teams coming up on the road later this month.
Boy, Mike Woodson's crew last night. Let's switch to Indiana, but my God, that game was over, like I said, before the first TV timeout, and that's not an exaggeration. They were down like 20-4. It was insane. They ended up losing to Wisconsin 76-64. They're going to replay those highlights of like Bob Knight in the 90s. Like, I don't know which streak's going to end first. That one, IU versus Wisconsin, or like the Colts winning on opening night day or against the Jaguars in Jacksonville. I don't know what's going to break first. Who knows? I don't know. It was an ugly night altogether. Malik Renew only 6 points. Mackenzie Mbako 15. Ugly night. The Hoosiers have dropped a ton as of late. 4 in a row now, 6 of 7. Not pretty. They seem to just be dragging their butts to the end of the season because it's not looking good for Mike Woodson or anybody. And they've got no answers. Nobody does over there.
The most consistent thing about the Mike Woodson era, they get rolled by above-average teams away from home. Don't let that final score fool you.
No.
That was an absolute beatdown last night at the Kohl Center. Butler back in action tonight. They're actually a favorite over Seton Hall. Shows you where Seton Hall is at. Butler's on the road. Anything else on your end, Mark? Looked like the Fever added a veteran point guard, Sidney Colson, added to their roster. Again, we obviously saw Caitlin Clark play a ton of minutes last season, so I wouldn't expect necessarily a huge role for her. But she comes over from the Aces. This is another multi-time champion being added here to the Fever.
Only other thing I saw was that the Mavericks are offering fans refunds after the Luka Doncic trade. That's
to
nice of them.
tickets?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So that's nice of them.
Wow. I thought they just do like the jersey swap. Although I don't know if, really a whatever here. Insert your random Mavericks jersey. Hey, here's a JJ Barea jersey.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel any better?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Last thing on my end, and obviously I don't think it's a surprise here, but I know how much she meant in her son's life. Do you see the passing yesterday of Tida Woods?
Yes.
The mother of Tiger Woods. I think Tiger has always said that she's kind of been the rock through it all, and obviously Tiger has had a lot of all, if you will. A lot of it self-induced, of course. But she passed yesterday. It was kind of crazy. She was at the TGL event, Mark. I don't know if you've watched any of those.
I have, yeah.
The kind of indoor golf thing that has started up here in the new year. She was at it last week. And she's the one that suggested that her son wear red on Sundays.
Oh, look at that.
So a very iconic brand, of course.
That is iconic. Tiger on red on Sundays. That's all you think about.
Exactly. So she was the one that suggested that. All right, coming up, we'll continue to recap the hoops from last night, and we'll get to you that Colts mock draft. It might make Mark puke, but I do bring it up because the man that had the mock draft, I'd say, knows Chris Ballard very, very well. I'm Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton, Kylan Talley with us here. It's a Wednesday. You're listening to The Fan right here, 93.5 on 107.5, The Fan. From down in New Orleans, Zach Kiefer going to join us here in a bit. It is quite amazing, like the Chiefs are going for a freaking three-peat.
I know. It's disgusting.
I mean, this is the NFL.
I know.
I mean, how many franchises have been to just 3 Super Bowls, period? I mean,
Not many.
It's got to be what, like half the league?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're just going, oh, we're going back. We don't have to play our best. We'll just be there at the end of the year. Just pen us in. You know, we're going to open the season every year at Arrowhead to kick off the season, raise another banner, and then we'll just be there wherever the Super Bowl's at. Just pen us in.
And how they've evolved, too, you know, from the Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce in his prime sort of team to where they're at now. I would say they win a bit ugly. They win a bit defensively. They win a bit, you know, kind of low-ish scoring compared to what they were at. So we'll continue to talk some Super Bowl. I've got a prop that I really, really like.
Ooh.
I know I threw a couple at you yesterday. I've got one I really like.
I need more. It
of those. Involves a hot-button topic right now in the NFL.
Oh, okay then.
Okay. So I'll throw that at you a little bit later. Speaking of three-peats, Purdue in position right now. For a three-peat in the Big Ten. They wake up this morning after their win in Iowa City, and a Michigan State loss last night, and they are atop the Big Ten. Certainly some big games in East Lansing and Ann Arbor coming up for the Boilers, but once again, damn impressive what Matt Painter and company have done. I'm going to guess most of our viewing or listening audience probably stayed up for that. They did not probably get very deep into the Pacers and Trailblazers. That's a good thing. Unlike Monday night, you weren't rewarded there at the end. What do you make of Haliburton? 0 for 3 last night, 0 points. Believe the fewest shot attempts he's had in a Pacer uniform.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it because it seemed like he got over that hump earlier in the year where he was struggling a little bit. He just wasn't making threes. He just seemed like he was kind of being more, passive than very aggressive, which is something you don't really want to see in your star player. And you're like, okay, he got over the hump. He's through it. He's found his rhythm now. Him and Nembhard are teaming up pretty good and everything like that. And then yesterday he was just kind of reverted back to his old ways. And it's like, you can't have that. First of all, with your star player only shooting it 3 times, but just not finding any sort of rhythm, just looking kind of just discombobulated and not really in the game. I don't know what it is. If it was the second night of a back-to-back, maybe he just needed a rest day, but it was an odd performance, and it's just one that the Pacers can't have going forward. He has to be able to get right with it and everything like that. So while I was hopeful that he got over the hump, it seems like last night at least he had a 1-game aberration where he went back to his old ways. So I'm hoping that it doesn't bleed over into tomorrow night's game against the Clippers.
The primary defender on him last night, Tamani Kamara, when Chris Neri first said his name, I thought it was like a Reds prospect. I was like, oh, Cincinnati Reds got a new prospect.
He's on the Mud Hens. I remember him.
There we go. The Bats and Indians are playing later this year. I can hopefully watch him. Boy, his length just bothered the hell out of Haliburton. He was a plus 33 on the floor. And I think this is where, again, this Haliburton game we haven't seen really. I guess Charlotte you go back to a couple months ago. Really haven't seen it since October and November. But these types of players, these types of defenders, in general, Mark, this defensive attention, it worries me looking ahead a little bit playoff-wise. Of this season, you've seen nights like this. Again, it'd be unfair to act like this has been a common thing over the last month or two. It hasn't. Really, Haliburton has played, I'd say, very close to an all-star level over the last month or two. But when you get to April, boy, the fact that there's a little bit of a blueprint on film, it'll be interesting to see whatever the playoff matchup is. Does that team feel like they have a player like that? And how does it get officiated? Because that's where Rick Carlisle's issue, it sounded like, was mostly last night.
Yeah, do we want to get into that audio a little bit where he talked about...
Yeah, Kylan, go ahead and play this again. This is Rick Carlisle last night. And, Mark, we'll catch up with Rick tomorrow. When we have asked him about Haliburton over the last handful of months, for the most part, he's been pretty defensive of his star,
yes,
I would say.
Agree.
I would say that's kind of the route he's taken, and I would say last night he took it once again.
I don't agree with some of the things that they allow people to do to Ty. When they're bear hugging him off the ball and they don't blow the whistle, that bothers me. And there were conversations about that, but they created a situation where the tempo and the physicality was dictated by them, and so we were behind the curve. And so we simply have got to be better. We've got to be more persistent. We got to play with more attitude, and we didn't do it.
It's fine, I guess, for Rick to have whatever displeasure and how the whistle went and express that. But if that's the whistle that we now accept in 2025 NBA, there's nothing you can really do about
Right.
it.
He said it multiple times that it was going to be a more physical league. So I don't think he can really fault the officials for not blowing the whistle every time Tyrese gets, touched and everything like that. He said it multiple times on our airwaves that they are going to officiate a much more physical game. So Tyrese should get used to that. He should be used to it by now. And I think Carlisle should also be used to that they aren't going to blow the whistle just because your star player is getting grabbed here and there. They're going to let it roll a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, too, it's one of those things where if you got 4-on-4 the rest of the way, you would like to think that can be an advantage if you're taking away, Portland's best on-ball defender. So, second worst offensive night point-wise of the season for the Pacers, 89 total. Again, Haliburton scoreless, going 0 of 3. Him and Turner were both scoreless in the first half, which is certainly not something that you say. I mean, they
When's
scored,
the last time that happened?
They scored 38 at half. It had the feel of like a Big Ten noon November game.
Mm-hmm.
Watching that first half last night. Portland was, I would say, equally as sluggish in the first half. I know they had a lead at halftime, but then their young guys were great. Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp were great in the second half.
Yeah, it was like in watching a Northwestern Big Ten game. Like, where's the scoring? What's happening here? But anyway, so we'll see if they can get right on tomorrow against the Clippers. They've got the NBA trade deadline. Whether or not they make a move there, we'll see. We'll get some information from Scott Agnes the day after, though. He's going to join us Friday away from his usual Thursday at 8:30. We'll get an NBA trade deadline recap with Scott Agnes.
Yeah, and ironically enough, we're going to have Jared Weiss from The Athletic on in the 9 o'clock hour. We had planned this before yesterday, but he wrote a piece. This was probably, about a month ago, maybe a little bit over, Mark?
Yeah.
Him and Sam Amick on The Athletic, where they got into Haliburton's early season struggles. And I think it's important that you kind of isolate, Haliburton's season so far. Like October, November, he wasn't sniffing a $200 million guy, not even close to it. And then lately, I think, outside of a Thunder game or a Charlotte game, he has played like I think what you would expect him to be at. But they mentioned in that story and his trainer, Drew Hanlon, had touched on it and ironically, Portland last night made me think of it because remember last year, Mark, out in Portland, that was Pascal Siakam's first game. Mm-hmm. That was also the return of Tyrese Haliburton. And Haliburton's trainer, Drew Hanlon, was like, oh, yeah, he rushed back. He wanted that 65-game rule, for the for the max contract there. And I forget the exact dollar figure it was. It was obviously a huge $1 million figure that he got by playing at least 65 games. Then he aggravates it at the Olympics. He pretty much worked out like 0 times this summer. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's just something to continue to, maybe it's not a front burner thing because, again, I don't think we've seen this from Haliburton a lot lately, but this general, will this catch up to you? Now that we're into game, 28 and 21, so, game 50 is coming up tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. Does this start to be more of a prevalent thing here in the final 2 months of the season?
Yeah, I mean, and we'll retweet that article that Jared had sent that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But he talked about how just he has to learn to play off the ball more and everything like that. And he really wasn't able to do that. And then when the Buddy Hield trade happened, he started to learn that he can play at a different level and he can adjust his skills a little bit more. But he was still trying to grow and figure out just exactly how to stay involved when he's off the ball. So he's trying to acclimate himself to a different level in playing. But, it took the Buddy Hield trade to happen and all that stuff. And they said it was also just, he was listening to too much of the outside noise that was, criticisms of like him not playing well, him struggling from beyond the arc, stuff like that. So he said it was kind of getting in his head, and then he finally was able to like flush it all out of his system and kind of get back on track. And he found his rhythm going forward when him and Nembhard started teaming up a little bit more and everything like that. But, it took a Buddy Hield trade and all that stuff to finally get him right. So
well, and he's just such he's frankly such a liability defensively that you have to critique the offensive game more. You just can't have nights like last night.
No.
So 0 points, 6 assists. That's also a number that certainly you'd want more out of. Pacers got the Clippers coming up, and it sounds like this will be Luka on Saturday against the Pacers. Did I hear Shams say that yesterday?
It sounds like that's what
there's
they're
some
circling.
optimism.
Yeah, they're circling. They're circling that date. They said that's when they think he'll make his debut with the Lakers.
Are they going to flex that thing? I mean, Saturday at 4 o'clock. Can you think of a game that's going to get less
attention?
Just in the time slot that it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to get, uber attention here now. But
can they flex it? I don't even know.
I thought the NBA kind of adopted that. Didn't the Pacers slot into some national games once they started playing better last season? Am I imagining that?
I feel like they did, but I also don't know. I don't know how their flex scheduling works, really. Because, yeah, you would think that game, if given the option, they're flexing that game, and I don't even know if there's... Yeah, there's the national game of Saturday night is Celtics-Knicks. So I don't know if that's going to get flexed. That's on ABC and ESPN+.
Celtics-Knicks is pretty good.
I know.
But still, Luka's first game is, I think,
But a 4 o'clock tip, that's...
Yeah, so what's that, 1 o'clock out there?
Yeah. I
So
don't
yeah,
know.
some optimism from Shams yesterday saying Luka would get to 5-on-5 work today with the Lakers, and then he would potentially be available coming up on Saturday. Zach Evert from The Athletic, he's going to join us from the Super Bowl here. Can I throw the Super Bowl prop at you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so a lot that we have interest in. How about this one? First penalty of the game.
Okay. Now, is this the type of penalty it is?
Type
or this
of
is
penalty, okay? I love 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 8th lowest odds
Okay.
for penalty. What penalty would you say you would bet on to be the first penalty of the game?
What I would bet?
Yes.
Like, is this a value play, or this is one I think is the most likely?
What do you think is the best odds?
I would say probably holding.
False start at plus 160.
Okay.
$10 to win 16. Offensive holding at plus 200. So you obviously are very close on that. I feel like the NFL has been pretty intense with their amount of illegal formations this season. This is nerdy, but we're trying to win $10 back. We just flushed it down the toilet last night. That was pathetic effort that we thought for 1 second that the Indiana parlay had any chance of hitting.
Well, hey, I took one for the team. The guy, somebody DM me and say threw 20 down on it. I was like, 20? I said 10, and I was scared about that.
Illegal formation at plus 1,200.
Okay.
$10 to win 120.
I like
Don't
it.
you feel like they've called a lot of illegal formations this
they
year?
have.
It's like the right tackle's too far back.
Especially the Chiefs. That guy was always jumping off, or he's always set up weird, and you're like, wow, that should be a penalty every single time. Where is roughing the passer on there?
Roughing the passer's just above it, at plus 1,000.
Okay.
You've got delay a game at plus 500, offsides at plus 500, pass interference at plus 600. So
I kind of like the roughing the passer one, though, only because the refs are quick to throw the flag with Patrick Mahomes anyway. So I can see like just a phantom hand to the helmet, and there it comes. That'll get the fans in a frenzy, frothing at the mouth.
I think there are a few props you could get strictly on, how many times roughing the passer's called, things like that.
Okay. I don't hate it. I'm not opposed to it.
We hit on this a little bit yesterday. I want to make sure we went back to it. Drew had tweeted in at us about the Myles Garrett rumors, and, do you see any comparisons? Hey, remember that time that Chris Ballard did trade a first-round pick for a defensive player, i.e. 2020, 13th overall pick for DeForest Buckner. There is the general thought to me of has Lou Anarumo demanded is a big word. Has he made it very clear he needs something more? Has he expressed that at all?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, he's obviously
now this is like acting. This is me asking to go play Augusta National tomorrow. I mean, that's what Myles Garrett is. If you put it in those terms, it's like whatever you asking to get in the ring with John Cena. It's Charlotte Flair maybe. It's a big ask.
Chris Ballard. Lou, do you have any suggestions to what you want? He just slaps Myles Garrett's name on the whiteboard. He's like, okay. You got any other ideas?
But I guess just the general thought of, does Lou Anarumo feel like he needs a major investment defensively? And what is that? Again, last year, rumors of them pursuing Daniil Hunter with a significant contract offer. Do you look at the 14th overall pick one of two ways? Do you view it as, no, that needs to be a young defender, or does that need to be a trade for a defender? Now, again, this is what's different about Buckner than Garrett. It's going to take more. It's not just one first-round pick. So I guess that question mark is what I have of does Lou and I didn't get the vibe listening to Anarumo a couple weeks ago that he feels that way. I think he views this as kind of a quick fix. But behind the scenes, does he want or feel the need to have something much more serious? Because let's not act like he didn't have the top. He had the top sack guy in the NFL, and Trey Hendrickson coming off the edge the last 2 years. He ain't got that here in Indy.
He doesn't have that, but he also, the price tag it's going to take to land a Myles Garrett, especially if Myles Garrett has any kind of I don't want to go to a team that's not in the playoffs. I want to go to someone that's a Super Bowl contender. I mean, obviously the Browns can just say, well, screw that. We're just going to throw you to wherever we can get the best trade package. But like you said, the Colts are going to have to not only hand over the 14th overall pick this year, they're probably going to have to hand over their first-round pick next year. And then you're also then playing against the clock because Myles Garrett, well, he's fantastic. He's getting up there in age. He'll be, 30.
I was going to say, what is he, 29?
I think he'll be 31, 32 by the time his 2 years remaining on his contract are up. So you're already then getting a pass rusher that it's kind of a win now move if you were to make it. That's why I don't think it's nice to think about in theory that the Colts can go get Myles Garrett. I also don't think they're in any position to mortgage their near future with multiple first round picks and maybe high picks after that, second and third round picks to get a Myles Garrett when you are not close. You couldn't win the division. You haven't been able to do that yet. And I just don't think that you're going to put all your eggs in the Anthony Richardson basket, back up the truck for Myles Garrett, and then be like, all right, here we go. I don't see it. I could see him going somewhere like a Washington Commanders. That makes a lot of sense to me. You got Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract, and obviously they got torched in the NFC Championship. You can add some defense there with Myles Garrett. But the Colts are nice to think about. I don't see, the cost it's going to be for draft picks bringing him here. I don't think Chris Ballard pulls off that trade. He can be bold in free agency and in the offseason. I don't think he's going to be bold enough to pull off a Myles Garrett to Indianapolis trade.
3 weeks from today, we'll be over the Convention Center for the NFL Combine. That will actually arrive in Indy a little bit earlier in the week, but we will do, I think, at least 3 shows, maybe 4. We'll do from the Combine here coming up in a few weeks. I will throw that mock draft towards Mark Dykton coming up in a bit. It had me certainly having a little bit of a gag reflex.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's all you've talked about is regurgitation so far this morning. Every time you look at this thing, it's
the grenade drink. Is that what we talked about from New Orleans?
Yeah. I still need to find the ingredients of that. There has to be some, what's it called? What's the Midori? There's got to be some Midori in there to make it green. I don't know.
It was a pukable watch last night for Indiana at Wisconsin. Certainly down 13-2, down 24-4. I think, I felt this way about watching Louisville against Indiana. Back in, where was that? At the Bahamas earlier this season. Wisconsin lost their dudes from last year. Like, Chucky Hepburn went to Louisville. A.J. Storr was their big transfer portal. Oh, my gosh. Here's Wisconsin basketball, whatever, spending in the portal. Well, he goes off to Kansas. Even Connor Seagen, who, was a nice rotational player for them, he transfers to Nebraska. Like, they lost, I would say, a lot from last season. It's not like they were some unreal team last year, and here they are, right there as a top, 5 seed, and here's Indiana with theoretically more resources available, certainly, and the portal investments much richer, and yet you're picked to finish second in the Big Ten, and you're currently 11th right now in the Big Ten.
And Mike Woodson looks as lost as ever right now in the postgame. Somebody's doing like how it started versus how it's going. He looks terrible. He looks like he's just completely, this season has beaten him down.
And I've been saying this for a couple weeks now. Saturday's going to be so damn awkward in that building.
Yeah.
Saturday, 1 o'clock, I believe? Indiana, Michigan.
Oh.
That is Mike Woodson and Dusty May, for those that are not following where I'm going with this. Like, when Jeremy Gray does the PA, he just needs to, he needs to mumble when he announces the coaches. He needs to sound like me, like trying to have an in-depth conversation with my wife. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Like that.
Apologizing.
And Dusty May for the Wolverine. And then, start that, ask for the band to really quickly get into that music.
Yeah.
Play that under 8 timeout song. That's always that's great energy in the building.
Got the crowd mics.
I mean, the Dusty May cheer and the Mike Woodson not cheer. I'm sweating now.
What's going to get a louder reception, you think? Dusty May as cheers or Mike Woodson boos?
Yeah, part of me thinks the boos.
Boos do over, I feel like boos as a volume always overtake any cheers.
Not that we know anything about, sound and, acoustics or anything, but the boo is, it's such a, hell, it's frankly a pastime, whereas the cheer, is it a clap? Is it a roar? I guess we want Dusty's a pretty easy chant. The student section will start that by the under 16 timeout.
Oh, for sure.
There's no way he would resign, would he?
I don't think so.
That man's way too stubborn.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I think they're just going to run out the clock on the season, and then they'll do a mutual parting of the ways. is how they'll phrase it at the end of the year.
I mean, I said it to you earlier, Mark. It just feels like Doug Peterson of the Jags. It feels like Chuck Pagano in 2017 of the Colts.
Kind of like Dead Man Walking.
Why are we doing it? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, we can all see the writing on the wall. We know where this is going. What's the point?
That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And again, last night I thought the starting lineup should have been changed. I thought you should have gone with the dudes that got you to the brink of it Friday in West Lafayette. And as soon as I saw the starting lineup going back to normal, I said, "Oh boy, this will be the same old Cole Center thing."
And you weren't wrong. It was the same old, and it was relatively quickly. Where you're like, "Wow, this game is over already. I think I can check out of this already, and I don't have to worry about it. I already know what's going to happen. I can read the final results already."
Don't let the final score fool you. It was never that close last night in Madison, 76-64 officially last night. Again, Purdue 90-81. As we said, open up the segment. The Boilers now atop the Big Ten. Braden Smith, first-team All-American effort from them. They'll have somewhat of a quick turnaround, I guess. They'll play on Friday here coming up, and then next week is their big week at Michigan. I think Wisconsin sandwiched around a trip to Michigan State as well.
So which game got the most of your attention yesterday? Because it was a busy ball night. I'm just curious, what got Kevin Bowen's most... I'm assuming you weren't watching from the beginning tip to the end of the game for all of them, obviously.
No,
think that's impossible.
I probably got Purdue about halfway through. I would say I was most focused because, Iowa did make that run late.
Mm-hmm.
And, Iowa can score. And so, Iowa provides a little bit of entertainment just naturally that way. And, again, Braden Smith was in one of those moments, man. That was sectional 8 Braden Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that man had no fear. He was eating up the crowd, emotion. I mean, he was a stud. He was a flat-out stud. I mean, he typically always is, but especially last night. So I would say there. I mean, again, Indiana, I told you, as soon as the starting lineup popped up, I was like, I probably don't need to watch this.
Yeah.
Then I watched till 13-2, and I was like, well, at least the Pacers are starting at 10. I felt that way about last night of like, if I'm going to have to stay up, at least I am doing it with another game.
Yeah, it almost was like the red zone of basketball where I'm like, okay, if this game gets out of hand,
right,
I've got another one, I can just flip right to it.
But then Pacers Trailblazers had a bit of a lethargic feel to it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a, Monday you got rewarded if you were a Pacer fan and you hung in there. Last night, if you hung in there, God bless you.
It was just frustrating because it's like, it echoed of the Utah game, but it was every time they got like within a point, it's like they just couldn't get over the hump.
The Pacers?
Yeah,
they got it to what Siakam had a chance to take the lead, I think, in the third, and had a good look, like a good Siakam look, and he missed it, and then Portland goes on a big run. And then McConnell and Nesmith do McConnell and Nesmith things. I mean, ball pressure and steals and, again, high energy, very similar to the Utah game, late third quarter when McConnell had those moments, and Haliburton comes off the bench when you're down, I think it was 6. You had cut it to 6. And I'm thinking, okay, here you go. I mean, NBA game, 6 points is nothing.
Right.
You're waiting for Haliburton to snap out of it, and then boom, Portland rips off what felt like 10 in a row in a hurry, and next thing you know, James Johnson was going to the game. I swear I saw James Johnson drinking coffee on the bench in the first quarter.
Well, they were in Portland. Portland has some pretty nice coffee establishments around the area. Can
you imagine having the life of James Johnson?
What's better than that?
Like you go through layup lines and you drink what looks like coffee on the bench in the first quarter.
You get to go to the Royal Rumble with Tyrese and everything like that. And everybody's afraid of you because the second you stand up, like, oh, wait, that guy's like a black belt and stuff. I shouldn't
Do you
mess
think
with
it
him.
was coffee, or do you think I'm just totally like, probably some whatever smoothie-related energy
It's
drink?
probably a smoothie or something like that. But, why are you going to yell at James Johnson if he's got a coffee in his hand?
No. Yeah.
You put that coffee down, sir.
Right, yeah. No, you got to certainly know your limits on that.
You let him do whatever he wants.
Well, mayo and coffee certainly made me puke when we did that whatever that was, maybe a year ago. We'll see if Mark Dykton pukes when I throw this Colts mock draft at him upcoming. We'll do that next. 8 o'clock hour fan morning show. Zach Kiefer live from the Super Bowl coming up at 8:30. Thank you for spending this Wednesday morning with us. All right, 8 o'clock hour here. On a Wednesday, we will have Rick Carlisle joining us tomorrow. Just a reminder for tomorrow's show, we're going to do a little Colts Super Bowl memory show. Obviously sprinkle in some basketball talk, but, we won't be recap. It's not like today. Today you have so much basketball to recap from last night, Mark. Yesterday was the anniversary, 18 years of the Super Bowl win.
It's wild. It's been that long already.
It has been a while for any sort of playoff success, certainly here in the market. So I thought, why not? Let's do it. Let's do a little flashback. Marlon Jackson going to join us coming up at 8:30. We'll take some calls. And I said this to you a little bit yesterday, the run. Obviously, the game itself, winning the Super Bowl, Reggie catching the pass in the rain, Kelvin Hayden tiptoeing down the sideline. All of those are certainly memories that you have. But, the AFC Championship game is probably the one that stands out the most. But still, they beat Baltimore 15-6 in kind of a slugfest. It wasn't the most flawless end of the regular season by any means that year. I think you talk to any player in that era, they would tell you that team was probably like the fourth best team. They'd point to 05, they'd point to 07, maybe even 09. So I'm looking forward to going down memory lane a little bit, not only with Marlon Jackson, but we'll certainly take some fan tweets, calls tomorrow on that.
That's why they say just get in the playoffs. Anything can happen. Because even if you don't think that your team's necessarily the best, just takes a couple wins.
And, I also thought fittingly we do it tomorrow because, again, 2 guys up for the Hall tomorrow night. We'll find out late tomorrow night. NFL Honor Show will begin at 9. We'll find out about Reggie Wayne and Adam Vinatieri. Will Vinatieri be a first ballot Hall of Famer? Is the 6th time the charm for Reggie Wayne? We'll do that here tomorrow, late night.
Your gut reaction right now,
I would say Vinny, yes. Reggie, no.
So Vinatieri gets in tomorrow. Reggie, no. That's where I'm leaning to. Not just because of that, but because of our conversation with Chap, where he was just kind of yeah, people still need to get nudged in Reggie's direction. And it just seemed like he was kind of indicating that not everyone that's in that room to make those votes is sold on Reggie Wayne yet.
And I think Vinatieri,
which is a damn shame.
Right. And again, I've made the analogy. I think the wide receiver position's too travel baseball-y for me when it comes to putting players into the Hall. I think Vinatieri with the clutch kicks, people just don't view him in the normal kicker stereotype. People hate kickers.
Oh yeah,
hate him.
Yeah, you ask most offensive linemen or anything like that, they hate him.
But Vinatieri, I just feel like is different.
Yeah,
have you seen him now? We need him against James Johnson.
Man, he's built, man. He hasn't he didn't just get retired and just get fat or anything like that. He's leaned out. He's muscular. He looks like he can still go.
We'll see if Mark Dykton indeed pukes at this Colts mock draft.
I got to get a bucket nearby me
in a minute or two. No shock here. The $10 all Indiana parlay yesterday that Mark threw out there. Yeah, it didn't hit. It had
not even close.
It had 5 legs to it, and guess how many hit?
Yeah,
1.
Yeah, it wasn't like I even got close to a cash out option. They're just no, you're dead.
Now I suggested, we could have spent the $10 on Girl Scout cookies instead. This is maybe the most blasphemous take I've ever heard.
I know.
Aaron told us earlier that Thin Mints are overrated.
He said, "I know this is a hot take, but highly overrated are the Thin Mints." And I said, "Are you insane? What's the matter with you?"
Wait, time out. Kylan, did you just whisper that you agree?
I think she did.
Whoops. Yeah, my inner thoughts got a little too loud. I would agree.
Gosh, Kylan, what?
I'm not a
Why?
minty person. I don't like the mint. I don't think it's really worth it.
Oh my
Yep. So what is your Girl Scout cookie of choice?
How about a frozen? Have you frozen the Thin Mints?
No. I don't like them regularly, so why would I try to make them?
I think they're extra better frozen.
Okay. I'll give them a second chance.
All right, how about this? I give you 4 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. You get 4, any combination. You can double me. You could throw whatever. 2 boxes of something. I'd probably go 2 Thin Mints. I think 1 Samoa.
Okay.
And I do like the s'more one.
Is that the tag along? Is that what those are?
No. S'more one I think is a little bit. It might be
one of their newer ones.
Yeah, that might be the millennial version of the Girl Scout cookies coming out there with that comment. Tag-alongs, I certainly thought about. What is it, the Do-si-do? Is that the oatmeal one?
Uh-huh.
Where'd you go? 4 boxes. I go 2 Thin Mints, 1 s'mores.
I'm with you on the 2 Thin Mints.
1 Samoa.
Give me a Samoa. Give me a tag-along, too. There's my 4. That'll satisfy me.
I don't know. I would get a box of Thin Mints for my mom. That would be one of them, just
Kylan,
because
let's not try
she
and
enjoys
spin
it.
this in a
But
positive direction
that's
here.
it,
You already
though.
said what you said.
I like the s'mores one too. I would agree with that one. The Adventurefuls. If you haven't tried that one one took
walk
me
me
by
through
surprise. This one is a brownie-inspired cookie.
Oh.
Okay, you
And
sold
it's
me
got
already.
some
Yeah.
like caramel in the middle and some sea salt. So it's got the brownie and caramel, and that's what makes me love it.
That is a good combo.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 2025 flavor lineup, which is this is awe-inspiring right now. But yeah, there's some solid options out there that I'm like, I'd never seen those before. So
I think we are in Girl Scout season, by the way.
we got to be close if we aren't already. But yeah, I need to get out to like my local like grocery store and everything like that and see where a table's set up and get to business.
Boy, quite the hot take there from Kyle and Tally on this Wednesday.
I know.
Hey, at
I
least
was
I'm
not
not the only
expecting
one.
We will move on. Yeah, you and Aaron can go, whatever.
I know.
Mark Dykton, Kevin Bowen, Kyle and Tally here against Zach Kiefer live from the Super Bowl coming up at 8:30. Mark Dykton, I bring to you a mock draft.
Okay.
We've seen a lot with Tyler Warren, of course, slotted to the Colts. We've seen, I would say, a decent amount of defensive backs also slotted to the Colts. That makes a lot of sense. I think either of those two, thoughts makes a lot of sense. But yesterday, I posted something to 1075thefan.com, and Lance Zierlein, who we've had on the show, NFL draft analyst, and Mark, I think when I first told you, hey, let's book Lance Zierlein, he is from Texas, and him and Chris Ballard are very close. They were friends back when, Ballard was kind of an area scout for the Bears, and I would argue Zierlein knows the Chris Ballard drafting philosophy a whole lot. So he came out with his first mock draft, and he has the Colts at pick number 14 taking a guard.
Oof. Yeah, I definitely need some Pepto-Bismol because that would give me some indigestion.
Could
I
you
think that'll give
imagine?
a lot of Colts fans indigestion.
Could you imagine Armand Membu, if I'm saying that correctly, Missouri Tiger, guard at 14?
Would not go over well, I don't think, with the fan base that is looking for a. Now does his mock draft have Tyler Warren off the board at that point?
Let me double check that.
Because that would also play a big role too. Is if Tyler Warren is still there and you're still going guard.
Can I say I don't care if you're taking a guard at 14? He's got Warren at 8.
Okay. Yeah, I would say if that's the case, I would rather the Colts trade back and try to acquire some more assets there than take a guard at 14. That would not be the sexy move. That would not enthrall the fan base to think things are changing at all. Yeah, that would be a lot of running in place for me if that were to happen.
Yeah.
No, I would not love that. I would not love that, and I would probably rip it the next day.
Yeah, I would argue I would hate it. I'd probably treat it like Kylan treats the Thin Mints.
Yeah.
Hey, now.
That's where I would probably go on that. I just, and this gets into a little bit of discussion we had yesterday on Saquon Barkley of, again, to me, Mark, there is an element of premium draft picks for me should have a focus on positions that I think, A, most directly influence the quarterback in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, I know at some level every position has that, but still. And then I think there is, too, like a longevity element. And that's probably where I would push back on the, building around a running back. It's just the longevity of that position is not there.
Mm-hmm.
Guys just don't play at a very high level there as long as they do at other spots in the team. And then, when you get into the guard debate, I guess let's get back, a little bit of Quentin Nelson in 2018. If you are a guard, Mark, and you have an all-pro play, we might never know.
No.
If you play defensive end and you have an all-pro play, we're going to know.
Yeah.
It's going to be a sack. It's going to be a tackle for loss. It's going to be a strip. It's going to be a fumble recovery. It's going to be something like that. But if you do that at guard, it's just not truly – I mean, how many all-pro Quentin Nelson plays have there been in his career? And you've won one playoff game.
You might end up on the Pancakes highlight reel with Jeff Saturday on Get Up or something, but for the most part, a great play from a guard is going to go virtually unrecognized, whereas a great play by a defensive end, you're going to see that highlight over and over again.
Like, protecting your quarterback and all that, yes, there is an element that it obviously matters, but to me, that position, guard, interior offensive line, however you want to describe it, that is a position that I think over time has proven you can find hits there later in the drafts easier than you can other positions. I find it fitting in a way. Again, tomorrow we'll have a focus on the Super Bowl team from 18 years ago, and you look at that three-man group in the middle. Ryan Lilja, Jeff Saturday, Jake Scott. Undrafted, 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that, to me, is kind of the makeup of, no. Spend the first rounder on Tarek Glenn at left tackle. Spend the first rounder on Marvin Harrison at wideout. Spend the first rounder on Peyton Manning at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Spend the first rounder on Dwight Freeney. Like, that is the sort of feel of, like, you've got to get those premium positions. And this is where I would obviously disagree with Chris Ballard on it. And as I kind of fast forward to 2025 and what the Colts offensive line looks like or could look like, it could be Tanner Bortolini, the 4th-round pick at center.
Mm-hmm.
That's a day 3 pick.
Yep.
The right guard could be Will Fries coming back from injury as a 7th-rounder, who I think has been a really nice find as a 7th-round pick. I think it's important when you start to put the puzzle of a salary cap and all that together that you do have to acknowledge your most important draft picks should have, in my opinion, an emphasis on the premium positions, and this would be the poster child of that not happening.
Yeah, you weren't kidding. That was a disgusting.
Can you
mock draft.
imagine that Friday morning after that?
Trying to break that down. The show's trying to debate who's going to get the 1st-round guard on the show first.
Nothing against Arnold.
No.
I loved Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold was a great show.
Gosh, I loved it.
Porch Stoop Kid. It was a good show. I
also loved Recess.
Oh, Recess is great. That is a great Saturday morning cartoon show. That was right up there. That was one of the great Saturday morning cartoon shows of all time. Actually.
Curtis, mint does not belong in any dessert, cookie, etc. Most overrated Girl Scout cookie is Thin Mint in a landslide.
Well, then you don't have to buy it. You can.
Is that a thought?
Looks like I'm not the only one.
Is this just a vocal minority I'm hearing here? Or is this like.
The loudest are usually, the small groups are usually the loudest.
Could we have gotten 2 boxes for $10, or would we have needed another $1 or two?
I don't know.
How much are Girl Scout cookies going
What
for
do they go for these days? Is it up to $6 a box? I don't even know.
I know whenever they're selling them outside the grocery store, I don't ever carry that much cash on me. So,
no.
Oh, sorry.
They have to have
I think they have adapted.
Venmo at this point.
Yeah.
Cash App.
Yeah, here's the old QR code.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rocket Power. Yeah, thank you, Jonathan Horn. Rocket Power, great show. But that's where
Scan the QR code on the brown vest. Boom.
Again,
order right here.
I bring up that mock draft because Zuerlein is a guy that, again, he knows Ballard well, and he mentions in his description on Membu he's got long arms. Doesn't feel like he'd necessarily play tackle at the next level. He'd move inside to guard, et cetera, et cetera. I do think there is an overall thought mark, and that we'll get into this certainly in the next month or so. We're about a month and a week away from free agency starting. Uh-huh. Your offensive line could look very different. You could very well have a new starter at center. We'll see about right guard. He mentions Membu starting at right guard. I don't want to overread Zuerlein's thoughts, but is he getting that intel from Ballard? Again, I don't want to overread too much of that.
And then 14th on a right guard.
Because if I made a free agent list, I don't stand on the table for anyone.
Mm-mm.
But Will Fries would probably be my top free agent to bring back.
Yeah.
And then at right tackle, you've got the Braden Smith. I guess, kind of awkwardness is how I would describe it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 weeks from today, Mark, free agency.
It's coming quick. There's going to be a lot of decisions being made, and I will be curious to see if Chris Ballard does ring true that things will be different when free agency comes. Are you expecting, this is another asking you a question gun to your head thing, day one, do the Colts make a splash in free agency this year? Are things different? Or is this going to be another sit on our hands for a day or two and then make a move?
I think I mentioned it to you leading into those championship game weekends, the feel of what Washington did this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of those individual free agents the Commanders got, you would lead off the 6 o'clock Sports Center with necessarily. But if you went to listen to Chris Ballard's words from a month ago, I didn't give this team enough competition. And look what Washington did this offseason. I'd argue they gave a lot of positions competition.
Mm-hmm.
Again, guys that, maybe are a little bit on the back nine, but guys that have won in other places, of an
Zach
Austin
Ertz.
Eckler, of a Zach Ertz, Nick Allegretti on their offensive line, Dante Fowler Jr., both their linebackers, and Bobby Wagner, Frankie Lulu, Jeremy Chin at safety, a good amount kind of spread around the team. That's kind of how I envision it for the Colts.
Yeah.
That's better than nothing, let me be clear, but I'm a little bit on the boy, you need to start to infiltrate the top 10 of your roster.
Yep.
And I know that's hard to do in free agency. It's costly to do in free agency, but you got to start to get into that group. The fact that of your 8 captains, 7 have been here since 2020, I don't love that.
Yeah.
I think that needs to change. And Anthony Richardson's the one that hasn't. And, we know what those questions are. So,
well, and also we've had the reports of just like the in-locker room thing. It's just kind of like a toxic thing where it's like maybe the same guys have been in there for too long. You need some guys from the outside to come in that have been in other locker rooms in the NFL. And I'm like, yeah, this is not how it's done elsewhere. This needs to change a little bit. We can't have the same old, same old. And, maybe that is the kind of like the old guard with the captains where it sounds nice on paper. Like, look at this. We've got the same captains year in and year out. You're also not bringing any new blood, and you're not having anybody differentiate themselves and become a leader in the locker room. So, I tend to agree that, yeah, it would be nice to see some new blood infused, whether that is through free agency or the draft, obviously. But free agency, I think they for sure need to change their tune with that and get a little involved in day one at some point.
One thing to note, too, from Lance Erline in this mock draft, he's got Colson Loveland, the Michigan tight end, going 20.
Oh.
So Warren going, 8?
8, yeah.
Loveland going 20. I can't imagine the last time we've had 2 tight ends taken that high. And we've gotten into this with our respective draft combos. There are some other tight ends that people have in the first, 50 picks, 60 picks. Mm-hmm. So that's something you have to factor in as well. With Warren, yes, I generally think he is just a different breed than any other tight end. But if that's a position that you view of having some depth, do you sit on it and say, hey, premium defender at 14, try to come back in the second round and rely a little bit more on that tight end depth?
I like that logic better than taking a guard with 14. So we'll see what they do with that. But yeah, Tyler Warren has been the play I've seen projected most of the Colts. He's also been the guy that, we've had people on that have said that they don't expect him to be there at 14. So he's projected the most to go to the Colts, but also no one thinks he's going to stay till 14. So
can you give us a show poll?
Sure.
On these thin mints?
Yes.
I mean, was our last show poll of what changes you want the Colts to have?
Well, it might be something like that.
So this is a little bit different.
Yeah. So you want?
Are we that in your head?
Should we just go flat out? Is it overrated or not, or should we list what is your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
I think. Well, there's too many. There's more than 4 options for.
I know,
Girl
but there's 4 kind of staples, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
or do you just want, or should we just
said the Mount Rushmore of Girl Scout cookies? Wouldn't you say Thin Mints, Tagalong, Samoas, and?
So you can't even think of the 4th?
Well, give me one more. I'm thinking of the
like the lemon cookie or whatever it is.
What about the
Do-si-do? No.
I'm trying to see if that's like a newer one.
No, I feel like the oatmeal one's kind of been around for a while.
I don't know.
You
What's
pick
the
whichever
basic,
one.
Like little cracker, the.
Oh, yeah.
What about that?
Yeah, I know what you're
It's pretty
talking
basic. I mean.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's one of the original.
You go.
I feel like I'm just gonna say, are Thin Mints overrated? Yes or no?
Okay. All right, fair.
I think that's the easiest way to get a.
Gosh, I'm afraid yes is going to get a lot of vote here.
Yeah.
We'll see how many haters are out there.
Unbelievable. Zach Kiefer in 10 from the Super Bowl. We'll chat with him. A lot of basketball to recap on this morning checkdown. Let's hit it.
Go ahead, start.
All right, last night it was ugly once again in Portland for the Pacers. One of their worst offensive nights of the year. 89 points. That is their second fewest. Indiana's earned the benefit of the doubt here with how they've played late. And to be fair, Portland has played very good basketball, but still, that was ugly. Tyrese Haliburton 0 for 3 from the floor. 24 minutes, 25 minutes. He played a decent amount. Only 6 assists for him. So the Pacers' win streak at 4 games is over. They've been great on the road. That obviously comes to a screeching halt. They now have not won a game in Portland in front of fans since 2007. Here was Rick Carlisle afterwards on the loss.
We weren't good. We hung around, and every time we'd get close, they'd hit us with a flurry, and a lot of it was the physicality, and the home crowd was tough. For it was good for them, and we didn't play well.
Off to LA coming up. They've got the Clippers here 10:30 tomorrow night, and then 4:00 Saturday with the Lakers. And it sounds like there's some optimism that could be the debut of Luka Doncic in a Lakers uniform, and all eyes will be on tomorrow. 3 o'clock, the trade deadline. We'll keep you updated. Rick Carlisle will join us tomorrow.
Yes, he will. College hoops, good night if you were a Purdue Boilermakers fan. They won 90-81 against Iowa. Outstanding effort from Braden Smith. He had 31 points. Trey Coffin-Wren, 25 points. Just excellent there as Purdue rattles off their third straight. They get ready for USC up next. And then over in Indiana land with the Hoosiers, you had the Hoosiers and Mike Woodson just get their doors blown off yet again at Wisconsin, 76-64. An ugly performance all around, and one that left Mike Woodson in the locker room just kind of scratching his head.
Right now, we're not tough. We're just not a tough team right now. We're not, and mentally, we're not tough. You figure we have a game like we did at Purdue, and where we really competed for 40 minutes, and then we come in here and we lay an egg, based on how we started the ball game. And you spot teams on the road 20, it's going to be tough to get back in them. And again, that's on me, man. We're pushing and pulling and scraping and just trying to get what we can get, and guys just didn't step up again tonight, man. And we got to get it fixed because we only have 8 left, and 5 of them at home, and we got to figure out all our games at home, and the 3 that's out on the road, we got to try to figure those out as well.
Stubborn, lazy, let's roll out the same starting normal 5, not reward those from West Lafayette on Friday, and certainly when the Mike Woodson era is over, we will remember it for being a team that gets absolutely steamrolled away from home against better competition. That was what happened last night at the Kohl Center, 1998, last time Indiana has won there. Butler tonight at Seton Hall. They're shockingly favored in this one. I was surprised to see that. Seton Hall has been terrible this season. Sydney Colson sounds like will be the new backup point guard to Caitlin Clark. This is another 30-plus-year-old veteran, multi-champion. Don't want to act like she played a huge role in Las Vegas by any means. I will miss Erica Wheeler. I thought Wheeler did a really nice job of just arm around Caitlin Clark, standing up for her, on the floor, off the floor. I loved her energy. But this has been the trend with the Fever this offseason, getting these, again, 30-plus-year-old multi-time champions. It's kind of a one-year thing here with the Natasha Howards, the DeWanna Bonners,
all chips in,
and Colson here. New CBA coming up next year for the WNBA, so I feel like that plays a little bit of a factor in it.
You got anything else?
Ryan has informed me that Dairy Queen makes a Thin Mint Blizzard.
I think I have heard that before, yeah.
Really? Now
that
sounds
is the perfect mix.
That
Ice
sounds
cream
outstanding. I don't know if
and
I'm
you're a
allowed.
hater, though. What
I
do you
don't know
care?
if I'm going to allow Kylan to jump on
I know.
No.
that bandwagon.
That's perfect for you.
Oh.
A frozen Thin Mint plus ice cream?
Oh.
Come on.
I'm going to have to think about that during the break.
She called you a loser. She said, that's perfect for you. I know. I don't really love it. So far,
Kylan was tremendous post-show yesterday, helping me record some things, and now
I'm holding on. Holding on for dear life.
he's
It's
on my
early.
bleep list.
It's early, but are Thin Mints overrated? 57% so far saying no, they are not overrated. So
Oh.
far,
And-
it's very early.
And, it's kind of like Notre Dame football. You still got to be rated. I mean, there's an element of, everyone knows that they're good at some level besides.
Yeah, they're like the Chiefs. You can get sick of them, but they're still there. They're still there at the end of the day.
Speaking of the Chiefs, three-peat upcoming. We will find out on Sunday. A man that is very gracious with his time, and he's got some young daughters. Maybe they are selling Girl Scout cookies. Zach Kiefer joins us from New Orleans coming up next.
My daughters are in the car listening to the show on the way to school. They will love this rejoinder that Kylan has thrown out from The Princess and the Frog. Excellent choice.
Tell you what, Kylan's been volatile today. I mean,
I know.
been 1 minute we love her, the next minute we're just done with her.
This is a shout out for the girl dads.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to the girl dad.
You guys are great.
We've
Let's
done
go.
the Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I got absolutely soaked on that ride. That ride is no joke.
I just pulled out the credit card. Shout out to listener
I saw
Kevin,
this.
daughter Lucy. I just bought 2 boxes of Thin Mints.
Boom.
They'll be delivered to the station. I don't
Silence
know
the
when.
haters.
How efficient are we with the Girl Scout cookies? Kylan, you will be getting a box.
How quickly do you? Yeah, what's the turnaround on there?
I don't know. I'm looking at my order, and I think it says in person. I put Monument Circle. I put right here. It's a lovely picture of Kevin and Lucille. Looks like is her full name. He told me Lucy. Love that.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Good for you.
We're gonna put them in the freezer. Thank you, Stephanie. Thin Mints in the freezer, the best.
I'm seeing the Girl Scout s'mores. I have had those. The Girl Scout s'mores are excellent. I might change my order.
Yeah, I think that I would put. Again, I told you earlier, if I did 4 boxes, that would be one of my
Mm-hmm.
one of my 4. Reminder: Zach Kiefer again live from New Orleans here in a few. Last night, the Boilers, Purdue outscoring the Pacers. Not what I had on my bingo card. 91 for Purdue. Braden Smith, man, he's your Big Ten Player of the Year, right? At the midway point.
I mean, he has to be. I
guess we're a little past the midway point at this point. I mean, there's no way he's not. He's a first-team All-American. And what's just so beautiful about him is he has such a great knack for when do I need to facilitate more, when do I need to score more.
Mm-hmm.
And last night it was score, particularly on the road. He did that highly efficient night scoring the basketball. Arguably one of his best offensive nights, I would say, ever. And that is just such a special trait for a point guard. And it's rare, especially in the college game. It's rare to see. You've got score-first guys. You've got pass-first guys. You don't see many, if any, that can do both. Braden Smith, sectional 8 performance from him last night.
Yeah, they're getting a good effort, obviously, from him. Trey Coffin-Wren, I think, has really stepped up as of late, too. So they are rolling at the right time as the Purdue Boilermakers and Matt Painter's crew. They are looking good. They are looking very good. A lot better than their counterparts in Bloomington. So, which, again, I like you said, looking forward to the game against Michigan. That is going to be a hostile crowd for a home environment. Would you pay good money to be there just to kind of take in the atmosphere?
Oh, I mean, I will be. That is 1 o'clock. So what? Max Bowen. If I get him down by 12:57, yeah, I will. Yeah, 100%. I'll be watching that. Well, I mean, they're going to show it, I guess. Oh, I got the email. Girl Scout cookie order has been received. Okay, that's good on that end. Estimated delivery time. Oh, geez, February 20th. Oh, man.
See,
I think I might be in Florida for that week.
well, I'll pick them up for you. I can't
Put
promise
them in
they'll
the
still be
freezer
here.
for you.
Kevin, Lucy, if there's any way we get them earlier, we would highly. Do I need to throw in a couple other bucks?
Kevin's
We'll
in
do that.
shambles at the moment.
For some
I'm
reason, I
also-
thought I'd be getting them like Friday.
This is when you go to like Sanibel. Was it Sanibel Island? Where do you go?
Anna Maria Island.
Anna Maria Island.
Yeah, with my side of the family. I think I'll do the show a couple of days down there, but President's Day week.
Well, if you're doing the show here out there and the Thin Mints come, I can't promise you they'll still be here when you return.
Well, it'll be you, the only one eating them.
Well, that's true. You'll know who the culprit is.
But yeah,
I won't feel bad though.
They aren't going to show the awkward nature on Saturday, but yes, yes. Jeremy Gray announcing Mike Woodson and Dusty May on Saturday will be one of the more awkward moments in Assembly Hall.
I would say so.
Someone brought up Alford's first game back. I think Mike Davis was ill for that one. That was probably a somewhat similar, but nonetheless, let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline. Do we have him?
We are
Zach
ready to go.
Kiefer. He's from The Athletic. It's early in New Orleans. We appreciate his efforts. Zach, are your daughters in Girl Scouts?
Not yet.
Are you a Thin Mint fan?
I am. Why? Am I getting sold on the radio this morning? 'Cause,
No,
I can be sold.
We've
No,
had
we
Thin
got a
Mint,
hot take.
We've had Thin Mint slander today.
Yeah,
We
someone
aren't
called him
standing for it.
overrated.
What? What
Yeah,
is happening to the sports radio business?
Well-
No, I'm a big fan of Thin Mints. Come on, man. We're overthinking this.
we are. We are certainly overthinking that. Zach Kiefer live from New Orleans. We appreciate his time. Set the scene. How's Super Bowl week been so far? What's on the docket? What's on the agenda?
Yeah, I know your listeners don't care all that much about the ease of getting around New Orleans, but I'm a huge fan. We can just walk everywhere. It's got vibes of Indianapolis in 2012, and we hosted the Super Bowl and did such a good job. Very, very different, right? The food's different, the vibe's different, but hey, it's been so staying cold in Indianapolis in the month of January. It's been 70 degrees every day here, so I'm not mad about it. It's been a great week so far, and I understand why this city is in the Super Bowl rotation as much as it is.
Zach Kiefer of The Athletic joining us on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Zach, how many Super Bowls have you done now? How many will this be for you?
I think this is my 5th.
Okay. Give me a quick power rankings, if you can, of the Super Bowl locations you've attended, where the ranks are.
Well, Indianapolis is going to be dear to my heart. That was my first one. I wasn't supposed to cover the game. I got to cover the game. That's going to be number 1. Remember we had that heat wave that week, and it was like 60 degrees one day? So that'll always be a special time. New Orleans is number 2. This has been incredible. Houston, for those that have done, Texans road games, like Houston doesn't do a whole lot for me. It was super spread out. We're taking these buses that take 30 to 40 minutes to get to the team hotels. I would put Vegas a little bit ahead of Houston, but I was not a big fan. We ended up walking through the mall to get to the availabilities. It was kind of a weird vibe being there for 8 days for work. And, oh, by the way, you're in Las Vegas, right? And there's a ton of stuff going on. I don't know. Just didn't fit for me. But New Orleans is right up there, man. Indy's number 1, but New Orleans is it's been fantastic so far.
We need to get Kevin out to New Orleans. He's never been. He's
been.
Completely foreign to him.
Never been. Mm-mm.
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, everything is within 5 minutes. And you can just walk down the street and find a great restaurant. And there's a million bars, and it's easy to move around. And it's like the Eagles Hotel is right across the street from the casino, which I don't know if that plays in anybody's minds, but I just thought that was interesting. I saw earlier in the week, but yeah, it's been tremendous so far, and it doesn't hurt that it's 75 degrees today.
Gosh, boy, really rubbing it in. Zach Kiefer joining us here live from New Orleans, Kansas City, going for the three-peat coming up on Sunday. Zach, I think that I'm so jealous of that I have not given that the proper attention. They're going for a three-peat. This is the National Football League. There's been, you could probably, 12, 14 franchises haven't even been to 3 Super Bowls. Is that topic a little bit more prevalent down there? Because, I've just been too jealous of it to really give it the credit that it certainly more than deserves here in Indy.
Yeah, a couple of things. If you think about how much the Patriots dynasty annoyed all of us in Indianapolis, right? They didn't even do this. And that dynasty really stretched over 2 decades and was really 2 separate dynasties, but they had 2-3 championship runs in there. And they couldn't even do this. Belichick couldn't even do this 3 in a row. I think it's a testament to the Chiefs. They don't talk about it. Certainly they've gotten a million questions about it this week, but Andy Reid runs a tight ship. They don't talk about it. They don't boast about it. Patrick Mahomes will allow you a little bit in terms of I've been wanting to do this. I know it's history, but in that story that I wrote about the Colts with James Boyd late in the season, it was just staggering to me when you compare the state of the Colts right now. Not to pivot and pick on the Colts, but there's just a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of disappointment. There's a lot of resentment. It's very stale, the situation they're in. And compare it with the other teams that I've been around this season. Kansas City, I've been around them a lot in the last couple of years. You understand why this system runs so well. And, of course, they have a great quarterback and an unbelievable coach and all that, but it's a very buttoned-up operation. It's a very grown-up operation, and you get it. And then I was in the Detroit Lions locker room, and I know they had a playoff upset, and that was really hard for them to swallow. But, it made sense when I was there why they were winning as well. And that sentiment did not hit me being in the Colts locker room the last couple of years. And that's just reality. And maybe it's just a small snippet. But when I'm around really good teams, it hits me why they win. And it hits me every time I'm around the Chiefs. They know what they're doing. They know how to do it. And they really just avoid any type of distraction. And that's really hard to do in today's media climate.
Zach Kiefer of The Athletic joining us on the Payless Liquors Hotline. I agree, Zach. It seems like the Chiefs just can adapt like no other team, where it's you can trade Tyreek Hill and not lose a step. You can look not great this season, and you're in the Super Bowl once again. It just seems like they can adapt at anything that's thrown their way, and they do it flawlessly. It is quite impressive. I wanted to ask you something, though, not related to the Chiefs or the Eagles, though. The Myles Garrett and Cooper Kupp stuff that started the week off, Myles Garrett wanting out of Cleveland, Cooper Kupp being told by the Rams that he will be shopped and hopefully dealt in the near future. What will surprise you more? The return that Myles Garrett gets for the Browns or the return that Cooper Kupp fetches the Rams?
Well, first off, it'll surprise me if the Browns ship Myles Garrett anyway. I just, that's not even being. I can't think that's even considered right now. I just think the Browns are going to shut that down. Now they're in a mess. They're in a mess of their own making because of that quarterback, and I don't feel an ounce of pity for them because of who they signed and what they paid him and how they did that. Cooper Kupp is, I think he's such a tremendous route runner, such a tremendous receiver. I think to answer your question, Mark, by far, but Cooper Kupp's, he's not going to get a ton. He's not going to get a ton in a trade because he's up there, he's missed games, and he's got a huge, I think it's a $20 million cap hit. I don't think the Browns are going to trade Myles Garrett. If they do, that's a franchise reset, and that's a team going nowhere, and they're going to have to live with the mistake of Deshaun Watson for a long time. Myles Garrett makes that a little bit more tolerable. We'll see how much animosity both sides start to show, but I don't think the Browns are ready to trade him anytime soon.
Again, that's the voice of Zach Kiefer from The Athletic, live from New Orleans. Super Bowl coming up, obviously, on Sunday. Zach, last one for me. I thought the Mike Vanderjagt piece was excellent. You wrote, I guess it maybe would have been last week. I don't know. All the days kind of run together at this point. We heard him on with Jake, I want to say a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago. A couple things stood out to me. I had totally forgot that after he missed the kick against Pittsburgh, he went on Letterman and kicked a 46-yarder. That really was something that I, again, had just totally spaced. And this dude's pretty adamant that he should be in the Colts Ring of Honor, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's pretty adamant he was as good as any Colt of that era. And I don't need to go down to names, but there were some pretty good players in that era. I mean, if he came off cocky in the story, that's how Mike thinks. And he's got the numbers to back it up to some degree, but you're right. I mean, that Pittsburgh kick, it was really fascinating. And KB, I don't think this is an emotion but when you're above a golf ball and you don't know what's going to happen, it's a really scary feeling, and it's really not fun. And that's really what he said was going through his mind before that Pittsburgh kick, right? This is a dream season. That's the best Colts team of that era. Dungy has said that. Polian has said that. And it all rested on this guy's right leg, and he's fighting his swing, his kicking swing, if you want to use that phrase. It's a terrible feeling, and he missed it by a mile. And then you're right. Polian said, do not, under any circumstances, go on David Letterman's show. And Mike Vanderjagt did. He wore his jersey. Hunter Smith was there, but Letterman held, and Justin Snow snapped, and Vanderjagt drilled the kick, and he knew as soon as that aired that he wasn't coming back. And then obviously it was the right decision for the Colts because they signed possibly the greatest kicker of all time, who might be enshrined in the Hall of Fame this coming weekend, and Adam Vinatieri to take his place.
I was just going to ask you, Zach, Adam Vinatieri, Reggie Wayne, do one, both, or neither get in this weekend?
That's a question for our guy, Mike Chappell.
He wouldn't budge. We asked him yesterday. He wouldn't tell us.
He wouldn't?
Nope.
No, he can't. I think that's like one of their bylaws. I hate it. I hate it for Reggie because he's just in this log jam of wide receivers, and he probably gets hurt a little bit in playing with such a good offense. I think it's a dumb argument. Reggie was spectacular. And not only that, he was spectacular in the postseason. But I do think Vinny gets in because his respect around the league is unchallenged. I think Vinny gets in, and unfortunately for Reggie, he does not.
Zach Kiefer, The Athletic. He'll have your coverage here all Super Bowl week long, and we appreciate his time early for him on this Wednesday morning. Zach, thank you, sir. Safe travels back.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the game.
Zach Kiefer from The Athletic. Ton of hoops to get to. Recapping last night. We'll continue to do it here. It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Well, the hot takes for Thin Mints are still coming strong.
What's our poll?
The
Can you
poll-
update everyone on
Yeah,
this?
let's see what this. I mean, I made it very basic.
I didn't think we'd go here on a Wednesday, but
I know.
boy, Kylan, unbelievable.
I don't even remember how we got on the Thin Mint conversation, but it very quickly turned.
Well, I said that your $10 Indiana parlay from last night
Oh, we should
should have been
it
spent on
Thin Mints.
Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah,
And I just bought 2 boxes. Thank you to listener Kevin, daughter Lucy.
Yeah, and then
2
Aaron
Thin
chimed
Mints
in
coming
and
our
said
way.
that Thin Mints were highly overrated, and then Kylan, under her breath, let it slip that she didn't think it was great either. So then we shot out a poll.
It really was under her breath. That's I mean, it was.
Yeah,
she
she
was
was-
a little snarky.
Yeah, I think she was stunned that we caught it. So I sent out a poll, and I said, are Thin Mints overrated? Very easy yes or no. Currently, 56.4% are in Kevin and my wheelhouse. They say no. 43.6% say yes. So we are getting more pushback than I thought we would on Thin Mints. But I was like, it comes to a point where, the GOAT is going to get some hate at some point. Where the Thin Mints, they've been around for so long, they've been top dog for so long.
Yeah, I mean,
it is like
yeah,
the Kansas City
yeah.
Chiefs. They're like, enough
Right.
already.
Tiger on a Sunday, Usain Bolt, Serena
Yeah.
Williams.
Yeah. So you try to chop down the GOAT at the knees
Right.
and try to push up this other lesser than.
Some lovely listener, called in with the unfortunate news that the s'mores will be no longer after this season.
Okay. Well,
Really?
I know where my
So-
purchase is
Boy,
going.
that sounds like some Girl Scout insight here.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
Schefter? The Schefter of the Girl Scouts?
Ooh.
Gosh, that makes me sad. Well, maybe I should have bought one of those boxes.
I'm going to now.
Did you just buy Thin Mints?
Just 2 boxes. Yes, one for you and then one for Mark and I.
Oh, look at that. We're going to share.
Yeah.
I get a box of Thin Mints?
And I guess one for your mother.
Okay. All right.
I guess
You know
based
what?
off
There you
how
go.
Happy Mother's Day early.
she was talking about it. We'll talk some hoops. Jared Weiss from The Athletic coming up here at 9 o'clock. He wrote a piece. This is, I guess, about a month or 2 ago about Tyrese Haliburton's early season struggles. Ironically enough, a goose egg last night from Haliburton. I think the Pacers, 11 of 13, and Haliburton, he has played much better here over the last month and a half. I think both have earned the benefit of the doubt, for me at least, not to overreact to a second night of a back-to-back on a West Coast trip. So I will do that. But the general thought, and to hear Rick Carlisle describe it after the game, of just like, I'm putting words in Carlisle's mouth, but Mark, feel free to correct me if you think I'm being too harsh. He pretty much blamed it on the officiating.
Yeah. He said they aren't really officiating him properly. So whether that, does he think that Haliburton's a star that should be getting a little more preferential treatment, or does he think that, there are harder fouls occurring on Haliburton that are not being called? I would push back on the latter thought if that's what he would say.
Well, and it's just, if this is how the game's now officiated,
Right.
it ain't changing.
He mentioned it multiple times leading into the season with us on the air, and he said, the NBA has told us that the officials are going to officiate a much more physical game than in previous years. So if that's the case, then I would counter him saying that they're not officiating improperly. Like, well, aren't they officiating it a more physical game? Why would they give ticky-tack fouls off? I wouldn't think they would. So Haliburton needs to adjust as far as how he's playing and how he's being defended, and he needs to get a little more aggressive himself and maybe draw some more of those fouls. Make it more clear and obvious that the officials must call those.
6 assists for Haliburton last night, 0 for 3 from the floor. I would say in general, the Pacers, if you said to me, hey, who was the best Pacer last night? Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's the most attractive Bowen boy. Probably Max.
Do a couple spins
down
and
the
throw
road,
a
but-
dart in the room.
Yeah, that was Nembhard statistically was decent, but boy, you look at his plus minus, really poor. I thought McConnell and Neesmith gave you some stretches there in the second half that were key, but still, really no one played great. So again, I think they have earned it as of late to kind of give them benefit of the doubt. They will be in LA tomorrow. Clippers at 10:30, Lakers coming up Saturday at 4. Sounds like Luka could make his debut. Saturday at 4, and we'll see what happens to the trade deadline tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I want to get a little bit more into Turner tomorrow. I thought there was an interesting soundbite I want to play for you tomorrow with Miles Turner in regards to kind of the national voices a little bit more, because I know a lot of people brought up the Lakers yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, I think Rob Pelinka at some point mentioned they would be looking for a center who's a lob threat. Think about Turner. Turner's not a lob threat. I mean, Turner's a stretch. I mean, he's he wants to pull you away from the basket, and he can rim protect a bit, but he's not that. So it's a scarce center market. We'll see how everything plays out. Are there any ancillary moves? Brian Windhorst, who just spent a good amount of time with the Pacers over in Paris, does not think they'll go into the luxury tax. I don't think he says that just to say it. So what does that mean? It's hard to extend Turner without doing some other things to stay away from the luxury tax. So how all of that looks, it doesn't necessarily need to be decided tomorrow at 3 o'clock, but you could very well do some things tomorrow, or by tomorrow, I should say, to all of a sudden,
give you a much clearer picture of what their
Yes.
thoughts are with
Yeah,
Miles
yeah.
Turner. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I feel like Miles Turner has just been on the trade block ever since he's arrived in Indiana. It seems like every single year it's like, is he going to get moved? And then he doesn't get moved. Or is he going to, and then he gets extended. And now we're kind of at that fork in the road again where, are they planning to keep him? He's obviously been a contributor on this team for multiple years now and everything, but it's another thing where it's like, well, can you win with him, or is it time to kind of go in a different direction? Maybe we'll get a better, clear answer tomorrow once the trade deadline comes and goes, if they are able to relieve some salary cap space, or maybe those reports are false and they are willing to go into luxury tax. We'll see.
And again, there's an Obi Toppin rumor from earlier in the week.
Mhm.
Tyler says, are you concerned at all with Matherin at this point? It feels like he has regressed this season. I would disagree on the last part. I have not seen...
You don't think he has?
I have not... Okay, so he has two sentences there. One, I guess one's a question, one's a sentence.
Uh-huh.
Are you concerned with Matherin at this point? That's his first question. Then the second sentence, it feels like he has regressed this season. I would disagree on the last part. I don't think we've seen regression from him this year, but the first question, are you concerned with Matherin at this point? Some piece to me does not fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep on coming back to Matherin and Walker. What are you doing there? If you said to me, Mark Dykton, are both of these guys on the team October 1st, 2025, even October 1st, 2026, I'd have some hesitancy on that. And, I said it to you a little bit yesterday. I think at times I watch Matherin out there and think, oh boy, he's too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He's too on edge.
You mentioned that he's a little too unhinged for your liking.
Well,
is it just that he's too
I'd
crazy
rather have
playing?
to rein that in
Yeah.
than ignite it. Let me be
Mhm.
clear on that. And I think this team has needed some of that a little bit more. But I think maybe they view it and just say, you know what? We really needed more of a defensive-minded wing. And if we can move you for that, maybe that's the avenue that you explore. I know if you look at Matherin's last week or two, maybe he hasn't had the most efficient outings.
Mhm.
But to say that he's regressed this season, I wouldn't say that. He's your third leading scorer. I think at times he's shown the ability with some growth areas and making the extra pass. Obviously, he's rebounded at an extraordinarily high level this season. Your rebounding numbers last night were awful. He was one of the few guys that actually did something on the glass. So I'd probably push back on the second part, but
He's one of those guys where
I just can't see this exact core together come fall.
No, Matherin is one of those guys where, if I was given the opportunity to choose, would I like him to stay on the roster through the trade deadline and all that stuff? I would, just because I want to see him in a playoff atmosphere.
I could not agree more with that.
We didn't get that
Could
last
not agree
year.
more with that.
I would like to see how he plays when the games are online, when it's, money on the table time in these playoff games. I would love to see him. I think he was a huge, his loss not being healthy in the playoffs, I feel like they could have made the Knicks series a little easier maybe for them, and I also obviously think they could have made it a little more competitive in the Celtics series if he were healthy. Could they have won that? Probably not, but I think he would have brought a little fire and everything like that, because he's shown that the big moments don't seem to bother him, and I just think the Pacers at times lack that kind of fire that he would have brought to them, whether that was just energy off the bench or just a change of pace. I would have really liked to see that. So if you're asking me, would Benedict Matherin be on this team? I would hope so, just because I selfishly want to see him in the playoffs and see how he reacts to everything.
Well, and again, playoff basketball to me at times is just different. Things can get a little bit more stagnant. It can get a little bit more late clock.
Yeah, you need a spark every once in a while.
Theoretically, that is when he could help you out there. And if you are going to get some of these, Haliburton clunkers, even last year we saw a very inconsistent Haliburton come playoff time. Then is that spark something that's needed? So Rick Carlisle tomorrow. Just a reminder about tomorrow's show. We're going to look back on the Colts Super Bowl run. The anniversary of that was yesterday. We thought with tomorrow's show, we aren't really recapping any games, so it made a little bit more sense for our weekly calendar. Also, tomorrow night, you will find out if Reggie Wayne and or Adam Vinatieri will get the call to Canton, Ohio. Marlon Jackson going to join us at 8:30. So looking forward to that. Little reminiscent about some better times for the Colts.
Trip down memory lane, yeah. We haven't had much playoff success to talk about in recent years, so why not go down in the Wayback Machine and bring it back? Also, we'll take some callers and everything like that. Like, where were you? What was your favorite moment outside of like winning the Super Bowl? What part stood out for you during that season? When did you know this team was special? Stuff like that. It should be fun. Should be a good time.
Our updated poll, it's getting a little bit closer.
Oh, no.
Our Thin Mint's overrated.
How many burner accounts do you have, Kylan?
46% say yes, 54%
I've got
say
at
no.
least 7 emails.
I'll see.
Scotty says the lemon ones are the GOAT.
Get the hell out of here.
No
what are
way.
you talking about?
Again, you got to put them in the freezer, yes.
That's contrarian to just be contrarian, then. The lemon ones. No one has ever said lemon anything is better than anything
No,
else.
that's so true. That's probably the thing I've agreed with you more than anything else you've ever said.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Coming up at 9 o'clock, Jared Weiss from The Athletic wrote a piece on Tyrese Haliburton, some early season struggles. Ironically enough, he's going to join us after a goose egg night from Haliburton. We'll continue to hit on a busy night of hoops in the state. Thanks for spending this Wednesday morning with us. Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton, Kylan Talley, Fan Morning Show. All right, we'll talk some NBA national hoops coming up here in a few. Jared Weiss from The Athletic, he wrote a long piece on Tyrese Haliburton from earlier in the year, kind of getting into the issues that Haliburton had, mainly October, November. Ironically, we saw him rear the ugly head last night, so we'll do that here in a few. NBA trade deadline coming up 3 o'clock tomorrow. For those that did not stay up last night, I'm sure you probably got at least the final score of Purdue and Iowa. Purdue did, though, get some big help late. And this is a reminder, Mark, Purdue's already done the West Coast thing. Remember, they swept Washington and Oregon a couple weeks back. Michigan State was out west last night. They lost to UCLA. So that now puts Purdue with Michigan and Michigan State all having 2 losses right now atop the Big Ten. Purdue's played 1 more game than Michigan State, 2 more than Michigan. So they're at 10-2. Michigan State 9-2. Michigan at 8-2. Purdue will be on the road coming up later this month at Michigan. I think that's next week, and then at Michigan State the following week. But as we sit here on February 5th, after losing the 2-time defending National Player of the Year, one of the most dominant players in college basketball, frankly, history, certainly modern history. And with very little in the portal, they lose their starting center, a weekend of the season. Here's Purdue atop the Big Ten and knocking on the number 1 seed door.
Right there again. Didn't miss a step almost. It's kind of remarkable, to be quite honest.
It's amazing, and at the same time, I feel guilty I shouldn't have acknowledged the possibility more in the offseason. I kind of figured they'd hover like around, I don't know, 4 seed probably. But, I mean, the fact that their path to the Final Four could be like Milwaukee and then Lucas Oil Stadium is just amazing.
It's just a credit to what Matt Painter is able to do with that team. He's just able to get the best out of everybody, no matter what the circumstances, no matter who comes and goes on that roster. It's like any other team that loses a Zach Edey type, you're probably like resetting for like a season or two. And with them, it's like, nope, right back in it. Right at the top of the leaderboard as usual.
Caleb First, another great story. I know the flash from last night is Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Rem, but I thought First continued to give them really important minutes. He's been needed, of course, with the injury to Daniel Jacobson, Will Berg. They tried that experiment, didn't really go well. They've tried to go smaller with Cam Heide and Miles Colvin. That hasn't been the answer either. So I thought First was great. 90-81 the final last night. It's a cover for Purdue as well. And then Indiana played at the Kohl Center, and Indiana played at the Kohl Center.
Yeah.
That's probably where I would go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those grainy highlights will be played in 2026, basically. Those aren't going anywhere.
1998, the last time Indiana's won there. 21 straight losses. They were down 13-2, 24-4, and yeah, the rest is history. The final score does not indicate at all how big of a blowout that was.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go now to the Payless Liquors hotline, though. Jared Weiss is from The Athletic. He wrote a great piece on Tyrese Haliburton a couple weeks ago and everything like that, so we get him on the line now. He joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Jared, join us. Welcome. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing amazing. It's trade deadline season. That means your phone never stops ringing and your brain never stops working.
And that's why we appreciate you picking up the phone, because you wrote this article on Tyrese Haliburton, and we're asking you to come on literally like 24 hours before the NBA trade deadline. So we appreciate the time. Before we get into the Haliburton article, I will just ask about the trade deadline. What were your initial thoughts on the Luka Doncic AD trade? Was your mind melted like everyone else's on the weekend?
I don't think I'm allowed to say on live radio what my thoughts were, so I'll try to censor this. It's the first word that came to my mind was treason. And I mean, I'm joking, but it was insane that they kept this under wraps to the degree that they did, considering they could have gotten such a greater return if they were to open Luka Doncic up to the entire NBA market and traded him during the offseason. And, it's just like, I don't understand. No one understands. No one behind the scenes has told me the way they went about this made sense. Now, there are people behind the scenes that have had plenty of explanations for why it was reasonable, or maybe even just like understandable, why they decided to move on from Luka. I don't think anybody agrees with it. It's probably the first trade I've ever seen where nobody even thinks it's remotely a good idea. But, Nico Harrison said he might not be there 4 or 5 years from now, so maybe that's why he was willing to do it.
Sounds like Luka could make his debut with the Lakers coming up Saturday. Pacers-Lakers, 4 o'clock out west. That's the voice of Jared Weiss from The Athletic. Him and Sam Amick wrote a piece that really caught my eye, honestly, as Mark said, probably like, a month or so ago at this point. And Jared, ironically, we have you on this morning. Tyrese Haliburton, 0 points last night, 0 for 3 from the floor, 6 assists. I would say since that story, he's certainly not had many of those nights. He had a few of them, though, without question, earlier in the year. In that piece, whether it's talking to Drew Hamlin as trainer, what you guys discovered, what do you find interesting about the Haliburton we've seen so far this season, which we know is not an all-star?
Yeah, Haliburton's game was just broken earlier this season. And in the story, we really got into the mental side with him. He was not healthy going into the regular season. He couldn't work out before the training camp started. Like he was coming into it completely raw, basically. And it took him a while to get healthy and to get up to speed. And that's why you saw a bunch of those duds. And the thing with Tyrese is you're going to have duds every once in a while. That's just it's this weird inherent part to his game where he just puts up some stinkers, where he doesn't have a shot going. He can't really get involved with the offense that much. And the team has a game like they had last night. And Portland's defense can be really swarming at times. And so, that you're just going to have those nights. And Tyrese, his whole thing is he is an aggregate player. He is a player that besides like that third quarter in Paris, like he's not a guy that really dominates games in one or two segments the way a lot of superstars do. He needs to kind of be holistically involved and piece together a good box score over the course of the night. And it took him a while to get there. And then you combine just the timing of him getting healthy, finding his confidence, getting his rhythm back. And then, as everyone in Indy knows, Andrew Nembhard is like one of the undersung X factors in the NBA. Once they got him back and healthy, that really changed everything.
Jared Weiss of The Athletic joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. You mentioned in your article a couple things that Tyrese mentioned was like kind of holding back, whether it was the being on social media too much and then the Buddy Hield trade and everything like that. How do you think he was able to just finally find his footing? Like what was the lightning bolt that kind of went off in his mind that he realized his game had to step up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the Nembhard thing can't be undersold because we get into this in the story. He learned a lot from Buddy Hield on how to be a two-guard when needed. And once they have Nembhard out there, that really frees Hallie up to play off the ball. And that's really important for him because Hallie doesn't break guys down off the dribble very effectively. He's a high dribbler. He's not super quick with his first step. He's someone that needs a running head start. And when you can take him off the ball and use him as more of a two or a secondary point guard, that gives him that head start to create that advantage once he gets the ball in his hands. And then he's able to kind of take over and get to where he wants. So I think that was really crucial. And then you mentioned the social media thing. He's someone who was just he likes leaning into social media because it gave him fuel. And he would look for people trashing him because he would read it and he'd be like, all right, I'm going to win so I can shut up, Miles Turner fan 74953 or something like that. And and the thing is, Miles Turner fan 74953 was starting to kind of get to him because he knew he was playing terribly. And he was starting to really buy into all these people saying he was trash. And he had to cleanse himself. He had to get away from that, focus on his faith and emotional healing and whatever other things he was doing, and that really worked. And I get it. People tweet at me that I'm trash all the time, and usually I laugh at it, and every once in a while I'm like, oh, God, I am trash, aren't I? And, this is just part of being a public figure these days.
Jared Weiss of The Athletic joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Jared, from afar, what have you seen so far? The Pacers are doing well this season, where they need to improve. And do you see any trade deadline deals for Indiana ahead of tomorrow's deadline?
Well, the trade aspect is really interesting because there's a couple. Fred Katz wrote a great story on The Athletic about this. There's a couple inflection points that they're hitting. Miles Turner is becoming a free agent. There's no reason for them to trade Miles Turner from a basketball perspective because they don't have any other centers on the roster. I don't think they want to start Thomas Bryant going into what could be a promising playoff run. Miles has been good. He continues to be good. He's a good fit for what they do. It doesn't make sense to trade him, but he is hitting free agency, and they've never paid the tax. They don't pay the tax. It's been 20 years. Between Nembhard's deal kicking in and Miles wanting to get probably a raise off of what he's already getting, they would go into the tax. And so this is a huge question of is Herb Simon willing to finally pay the tax? This is a team that I think is very clearly worth it. They are still relatively young. They're still growing. They have a good window here. And their roster isn't kind of perfect, like fitting in. Ben Maturin, figuring out where he fits into all this is still a work in progress. Maybe they end up moving on from him and turning that into another player they think could fit. Obi Toppin, Dallas was interested in him before the Anthony Davis trade. So, a good amount of teams are interested in him. And Jarris Walker starting to take that next step opens the door for them to move on from Toppin if they wanted to do that. So there's a few things they can do financially here. But I think the important thing is they shouldn't be compromising their ability to win this year because I do think there's an opening for them in the Eastern Conference here, and they could make a run.
That's the voice of Jared Weiss from The Athletic. Again, tomorrow, 3 o'clock, NBA trade deadline. The Pacers out west. They'll take on the Clippers coming up. We'll have Rick Carlisle on the show tomorrow. Jared, last one from me. You have easy is such a dumb word to use. Do you have a fix for the All-Star game?
Yeah, I think they're getting towards it, which is stop making it a real game and start making it an exciting, short action pickup situation. So I actually do like what they're doing. The All-Star game for 48 minutes, 5-on-5 play, the way the game is played in transition, no one's going to try. So break it down in the shorter games. I want to see like 3-on-3 to 11, like real pickup style. That's what you want to see. And that way you can get these stars competing against each other, create some sort of tournament structure. Like, I think they're hitting the nail on the head here with how it should be. We shouldn't be looking at this as we want to see a game replicated. We want to see this as we want to see the great players playing against each other in a way that'll get them to actually go at each other and have fun with it.
Can I throw an idea at you? And this is not my idea. That is courtesy of the great Michael Grady, TV voice of the T-Wolves, used to be on our airwaves. I was watching the telecast the other night, and Grady mentioned the fourth team. So right now we've got the 24 All-Stars. They're being broken up into 3 8-man teams. The fourth team should be the snub team. So you get
that'd be great.
Haliburton, Fox, Sabonis, LaMelo Ball, all these snubs theoretically, and they be the fourth team under that format. Now, it's probably a bit far-fetched. How do you define the snubs and all of that? But that idea intrigues me.
I mean, what you could do is you could just do it based on the voting, right? All the guys that fell short in the voting, you have a cutoff point there. You release the voting total so we know, and then you just make your all-snub team. That's a lot better than the G League Showcase team or the Rising Star team.
I would agree.
Jared, last one for me. Trade deadline tomorrow. Big names that are going to get moved still potentially. Is it Jimmy Butler circled or anyone?
Durant. Did I see
Durant's another one. And who do you think will get dealt before tomorrow's deadline, big name wise?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of Durant and Butler frameworks flying around the league lately, stuff that involves both of them. I mean, Jimmy Butler's making it pretty clear he wants to go to Phoenix. Miami's made it clear they don't want Bradley Beal's salary, so that's been a weird stalemate there. But Kevin Durant going to Golden State would open the door for that. And I know Dallas is trying to jump into the mix, but there's been a lot of teams going after KD for a while now. This has been an act. KD has been an active target for a little while now. I think we're looking at weeks here, and it's just really starting to heat up. I do expect KD to move. Not that I have like particular insight into whether it's over the line is likely or not, but Phoenix, if things are not working, and if they can find a way to really reset for the future or get some important future pieces while kind of reconfiguring what they have now around Devin Booker, it makes sense for them to do it because the West is so long and they're far back on that list.
Jared, can't thank you enough for picking
need
up
to sleep with one eye open tonight.
Yeah, I know, for real. After Saturday.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
NBA trade deadline coming up tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Jared, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
I enjoyed that. That was our first convo with Jared Weiss. Good stuff there from an NBA national perspective. And again, that Haliburton piece, I think some of it still applies. I think, did you tweet that out from our show account?
Yes, I retweeted it from our show account, Morning Show 1075. So you want to check it out there. It is readily available. So thank you for Jared for picking up the phone on a very chaotic time to be an NBA writer.
Again, Rick Carlisle coming up tomorrow, 3 o'clock for the deadline. So, Pacers-wise, they will play tomorrow night. They'll have the Clippers, of course. That is a late one at 10:30. So we'll continue to obviously keep you updated, and certainly Jake will do the same thing with John. We're going to recap a little morning checkdown here coming up hoop-wise in a bit. Can I throw one more Super Bowl prop at you?
Yes, please. I enjoyed your first one. You want to retell what that one was originally?
One is first penalty of the game. Which penalty will be called first? What type of penalty?
Mm-hmm.
I love scrolling down a little bit on the odds sheet and seeing at plus 1,200 what I think has been an emphasis in 2024, and that is the illegal formation.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've seen that a decent amount.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's a $10 bet to win 120.
That's right up there with
better than your Indiana parlay.
I know. Well, it probably has a better chance of hitting, that's for sure. Yeah, I would have said holding for mine, which I think you said
holding at plus 200 offensive. Defensive is plus 300. False start is your favorite at plus 160. That's $10 to win 16. Now this one, my mother would love this.
Oh.
Which book will A.J. Brown be reading on the sidelines?
Have we established that he's a fast reader? Maybe he's still on the same book.
Well, I mean, that was, 3 weeks ago? He's a
busy man.
He's had some downtime, has he not?
He has. He's also got media relations for the Super Bowl and everything like that. He's getting pulled in all sorts of directions.
At plus 700, Love Hurts, Buddhist advice for the heartbroken.
Okay. These are very specific, by the way.
At plus 900, again, 10 to win $90, any Shakespeare book.
Okay.
Also at plus 900. I don't know if he'd take this out of the drawer of his hotel room in New Orleans, but the Bible.
Okay.
Of Mice and Men and The Catcher in the Rye show up next.
Catcher in the Rye was one that was in my mind. I don't know why I had that in my head, but I was like, I'll put money on Catcher in the Rye.
Now, we have a couple Mark Dykton favorites that we're going to get to here.
Oh, the Far Side?
Inside the Philadelphia Eagles at plus 1,200. And then to appease Mark Dykton at plus 1,600, the Dallas Cowboys suck.
Mm-hmm.
And at plus 2,000, 50 Shades of Grey.
Well, 50 Shades of Grey, maybe that could be related to like the playbook or something like that. There's a lot of gray in there. Or are we just talking about different?
You might want to stay clear if A.J. Brown's reading 50 Shades of Grey. He might need to be by himself on the bench
I know.
for that one.
Well, maybe he's just trying to get, limber and in different positions for catching the ball from Jalen Hurts.
Any of those? You going to go the Bible at plus 900?
No.
Love Hurts? Buddhist advice for the heartbroken? No book? Microsoft Surface in his hands?
What is the no book? What's the odds there?
I mean, I assume this is saying if he is reading anything. So you can't necessarily bet on no book.
Okay. Well, if he's reading something, I don't know. Catcher in the Rye was in my head for some reason. So I guess I would go with that because I wasn't expecting that to be on the list. So what is that? What are the odds on that one?
Plus 1,000, so 10 to win $100.
What if he has like different covers of books printed out and he can just like switch to them multiple times?
With our cameras at the Super Bowl, we're going to be zoomed in on that.
I know.
We're going to be able to read the book with him.
You know how many authors are probably hoping like, hey, if I send you my book, can you read that on the sideline? Because then that one guy go from like
can you imagine
15,000 to like number 10 or something on the Amazon list?
Imagine this is like an NIL deal.
Yeah.
And like the amount he would be getting for this.
Mm-hmm. Hey, the A.J. Brown Book Club is going to be a real thing by probably next year.
It certainly will be. All right, coming up in a bit, a really, really cool new venture in the northwest part of the state, a part that the Dykton family has frequented, right?
We have Fair Oaks Farms. We love that place. We see it every time we go up to see my parents or Ashley's side of the family. So it is off 65. We see it every single time, and we've gone a few times, and it is delightful. The milkshakes are incredible. The food is delicious, and the girls have a good time every single time.
In this sports complex, I would say you and I have some bias towards it. And so this is a great, great announcement coming up here later today. We'll hit that to close out the show in a bit. But it was a busy night in hoops. Let's go ahead to the morning checkdown.
We'll start with the latest game of the night. That was the Pacers out in Portland. That did not go well for a back-to-back. 112-89 losers were the Indiana Pacers. Just never really found their rhythm. Tyrese Haliburton, 0 points on only 3 shots throughout the game. Not a good one there. After the game, though, Rick Carlisle talked about just not a good effort.
They played an overtime game last night. So, I mean, what are we talking here? If anything, we should have been the team with the advantage, even though we traveled. We played earlier and everything else. We didn't play well. We settled early a few times when we shouldn't have. We got down early, had to dig out of a hole. It's not how you want to play on the road. I mean, you've got to set a tone. You got to play with attitude, and you got to be consistent. And we were not.
I hope this makes sense. I didn't really feel like they deserved to win on Monday night.
It was like a get-back game, though.
Like, sometimes that just kind of happens.
Yeah.
That, okay, they did make the plays in the final few minutes, but, they really didn't deserve. Last night, to me, it was just they got it to 82-76. Haliburton comes back in the game. I'm thinking there that, hey, this could be just like last night. Haliburton could rewrite how bad of a night he's had with the final 5 minutes, and boom, Portland throws another run at him. I'm like, yeah, they deserve that.
Yeah, the basketball gods were like, okay, we gave you one on Monday. This one you got to earn.
They did not.
No.
Indeed.
Nope.
So tomorrow, Clippers 10:30, and then it sounds like the Luka debut at the Lakers could happen 4 o'clock on Saturday. That's when the Pacers will wrap up their West Coast trip. Just 4 games left till the All-Star break?
Something like that.
Knicks and Wizards next week. I believe Reggie Miller, Kevin Harlan on the call for that one. Inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse next week. NBA trade deadline coming up tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
And we'll talk to Rick Carlisle tomorrow as well.
Indeed.
That got pushed back a little bit because of the West Coast trip. We will have our conversation with him tomorrow.
It was a 5-leg parlay. Mark Dykton hit one of them.
Yep.
Thank you to Matt Painter and the Boilers for that. No surprise that they were the one to hit, though. 90-81. That is 5 straight road wins after not shooting it well against Indiana. Purdue shot it great from behind the arc last night, and no one was better than the 40-minute effort from Braden Smith. 31 points for him. That is a first-team All-American type night for the Westfield product. Here was Matt Painter last night on his stud point guard.
We really wanted him to, after we made some adjustments about stuff, look to score more, look to drive the ball more than anything. Like get them on their heels, get them to put 2-3 people on the basketball, then get the ball out of your hands if they don't. And he obviously got a couple driving layups. But he's a great player, man. He gets it figured out. You can get him a little bit here and there, but he normally gets things figured out. And getting him to score has really helped our program. Because that's what we need. You go on the road and, Trade gets in foul trouble or whatever, you got to have people step up that can create some things for themselves. You don't have, not every player that you have or they have can create for themselves. And it's a big piece if you got numerous guys who can do that and play at an efficient level.
Up next for Matt Painter's crew, a Friday night tip against USC. So in West Lafayette, don't slip up. Just get through it. And then you got some big ones against
Handle your business week.
Yeah, because then you got Michigan, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Indiana up after that. Speaking of Indiana, oh boy, was it ugly at the Kohl Center last night. The streak continues, folks. 76-64, Wisconsin all over Indiana. That score looks a lot closer than that game was. Wisconsin outscored Indiana 40-28 in the first half. It was ugly from the get-go. Again, it was the first TV timeout, and the Indiana was already down like 16 points or something like that. It was hideous. It was disgusting. And it was also par for the course for Matt Woodson's crew this season. So, unfortunately, not a good night for them. They've lost 6 of 7. They don't look very good right now at all. And now they get ready for Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines. That is a Saturday afternoon tip in Bloomington, and that will be must-see TV for a few reasons, I would say.
They're 11th in the Big Ten standings. I believe, again, Big Ten tournament is here. 15 teams make it. 18 in the Big Ten. Can you imagine if for some reason Indiana didn't make the Big Ten tournament in their own state capital?
Nothing would shock me this season. I will say that.
It would be the most fitting element to the Indiana season and probably their Big Ten tournament history as well that you could ever script up.
That could potentially be the final nail in the coffin of the Mike Woodson, if it isn't already.
I think the final nail was several weeks ago, and at this point,
well, could that be the more...
At this point, this is the Jamaican bobsled team getting to the finish line. It's
pulling
just
it across.
Literally, they're all carrying the sled, and it's just like, oh boy, March, 12th, whenever the final Big Ten tournament day is. Can't get here soon enough. Butler in action tonight. They desperately need a win. They did beat Seton Hall earlier in the year. They'll get them at Seton Hall tonight. They actually are favored. Sydney Colson, the new backup point guard here at the Fever, another veteran, multi-time champion. Don't expect a huge role for her, but they needed somebody behind Caitlin Clark. But I will miss Erica Wheeler. Loved her energy. Loved her leadership with Caitlin Clark. I thought immediately from day one she was arm around Caitlin Clark, and I thought that was really important for her rookie season. So Fever continue to be busy, busy, busy.
That's all I got, unless you got anything on your end.
All right, coming up, we'll continue to talk a little hoops, a little bit of Super Bowl as well. You're listening to The Fan Morning Show right here, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. Looking forward to tomorrow's show. Not only will we have Rick Carlisle, NBA trade deadline day, but also Marlon Jackson. Certainly you hear that name and you immediately think of Bob Lamey, and Marlon's got it, and the Colts are going to the Super Bowl. We'll have a little Super Bowl throwback show, if you will, tomorrow. Thought about this a few weeks ago. I'm like, you know what? Understandably, we've been obviously very, doom and gloom about the Colts. That's what happens when you're in your worst playoff drought in 30-some years, and you haven't won a playoff game since 2020, and you haven't won the division since 2014.
We'd love not to be negative.
Right. You haven't won a playoff game since 2018, I should say. You haven't been in the playoffs since 2020. Haven't won a division title since 2014. But I just felt like that Super Bowl run, and maybe it was, there was a little bit of an unexpected nature to it, that probably plays into some of those memories. But I thought, you know what? Let's celebrate it. Let's look back on it. Favorite memories from that year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of undrafted free agents on that roster. I think you have games that people forget about. I brought up earlier the Baltimore game, the divisional round, 15-6. Throwback game, Adam Vinatieri's right leg needed for 5 field goals. And fittingly, we will find out tomorrow night if Adam Vinatieri gets the first ballot call from Canton, Ohio. So that will be late tomorrow night. So tomorrow night's another late one. 9 o'clock NFL Honor Show if you want to watch that for Adam Vinatieri and Reggie Wayne. See if they get it in the Hall of Fame.
I can't believe it starts so late.
And then 10:30 for the Pacers and Clippers. That's the only bit of silver lining I've had with this week.
Mm-hmm.
Last night you had Indiana at 9 and the Pacers at 10. Tomorrow night you get that. Like, you brought up the red zone earlier. At least I felt like I had another viewing option.
Mm-hmm.
Now, both of them stunk.
Not good. Yeah.
Hopefully tomorrow night won't be that. I guess NFL Honors will at least be somewhat entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know who's hosting. I don't know if they have a host anymore.
It's probably what's her name? Who's the chick I saw in Vegas?
Nikki Glazer?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like Nikki Glazer's
She's been
everywhere
everywhere
right now.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Saw her and David Spade. Great show.
I don't know who's hosting NFL Honors. I'm trying to look that up. I don't know. We'll see, though. But, yeah, I hope it doesn't drag. I haven't watched the NFL Honors, like, start to finish, and I don't know if I've ever done it, but we'll see. I
mean, they've really tried to make it a thing. It used to be a Saturday show. Now they've bumped it up to Thursday.
Snoop Dogg is hosting.
Oh, well, speaking of someone who's been everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm shocked. Is it on NBC or Fox?
Looks like it's on Fox and
Fox
NFL
is
Network.
Super Bowl.
Fox and NFL Network.
Got it.
Simultaneous.
Snoop was everywhere during the Olympics, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there you go. Snoop Dogg is hosting. Not Nikki Glazer. She gets a week off.
Practice will begin this week, of course, Super Bowl wise. Unless I'm missing something, I don't feel like we've got like a big injury.
No,
for
I
the
think
Super Bowl.
the Colts. Yeah, right. The Chiefs are surprisingly healthy, and I haven't heard much about the Eagles either or anything like that. So a pretty healthy Super Bowl matchup, I would say.
Again, the game 2 years ago, such a high-scoring affair.
Mm-hmm.
Our attention here locally was probably so much on Shane Steichen and, him coming to the Colts. And I know Steichen thinks about that game a whole lot. Hurts. Remember when he dropped the ball and they returned it for a touchdown?
Uh-huh.
You remember that kind of early on?
Yeah.
Remember, it always stood out to me that Steichen then came right back to him as a runner, and they kind of got it going. He threw that great deep ball to A.J. Brown. Kadarius Toney had the huge kick return late in that one. Mahomes had the big scramble there. Harrison Butker makes the shorty for the win. So a rematch here 2 years later, and obviously Saquon Barkley being the big difference personnel-wise in this one.
Yeah, it should be a good one. I mean, I know it's not. I know it's a matchup people are kind of like, oh, not again. But the first matchup was pretty good. I hope it's a high-scoring affair. I hope it's not a blowout of any sorts. So I think two high-powered offenses, and like you said, you had one of your prop bets where it was like, oh, a lineman to score a touchdown. I feel like if you're gonna have
just to catch a pass, lineman or quarterback to catch a pass.
There you go. I feel like if either team is going to do that, it's those two would be the favorites on them any list. So the fact that you got two options that you get to double dip, Chiefs and Eagles, they're going to throw some linemen out there for a pass.
I've always really carried the water, I feel like, for Nick Sirianni here lately.
Mm-hmm.
They make the Super Bowl a couple years ago, Mark. They lose both coordinators, and 11 wins last season and 14 this year, and now they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you don't see that. And
the calls for him to be, like, fired in the middle, like, to start the season, too, It was pretty loud. Where people were like, is he going to be the first coach fired? It was kind of weird. Where,
It
like,
just seems
from an outside perspective, you're like, Nick Sirianni, what's he doing?
It just seems ludicrous. And I get it. Like Howie Roseman and how he's built this roster. I mean, it is a very good roster.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a better roster than Kansas City's roster. So, obviously you have to acknowledge that. But still, the managing of all of that, I think there's some ego, certainly on that team.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's handled that really well. Obviously, from a coaching staff, they made enough, quality hires. And, Detroit's injury situation, I think, dealt them kind of a bad hand as the season moved along. But the Eagles have been right there throughout this year, and they've kind of been a little forgotten about. And then, obviously what they did in the second half against Washington speaks for itself. So this is still a slight underdog here for Philly. Is that right?
Last I've seen, yeah. But yeah, they've shown that they can handle a bunch of different kind of egos and personalities and everything like that. They didn't shy away from Jalen Carter when other teams in the draft did. They were happy to take him, and he's done very well for them. They've obviously added Saquon Barkley, who's completely redefined their offense and everything like that. So they can handle all these, what other teams would view as like locker room red flags maybe, or just guys that maybe concern. They've handled it flawlessly. And now they're in the Super Bowl the second time in 3 years, and they look like they could, give the Chiefs a run for their money. We'll see.
All right, coming up in a bit, and when I say a bit, I should say about 10 minutes, Allison Barber, former president of the Fever, is going to join us. Awesome project here that will be, I would say, really transformational when you talk about young women, young girls in sports that will be in our state, make the trek up 65 and get a milkshake while you're in the vicinity. A really cool project. We'll talk with her about that, but I wanted to make sure that we hit on this again. We did this to lead off the show today, and I guess first I'll probably issue an apology because I felt like yesterday's show had a bit of an awkward nature to it.
Yep.
I wanted to be transparent with our audience, but I also wanted to be respectful of Andy and giving him the opportunity to address what happened on Monday in whatever manner he wanted to. Andy and I spoke yesterday. He's like, hey, I'm going to send something out today, which he indeed did. And so, unfortunately, Andy will no longer be with us on the morning show. Like I said earlier, Mark, I'm going to miss his energy. I'm going to miss his passion for local radio. I think he's got such an incredible ability to prepare, and I hope that our audience felt that. But he was tremendous with his preparation. And I know he wanted to be in this market. He came from primarily a college sports market, and he wanted to experience the NFL and everything that went with that. And I think, our audience kind of felt that energy level whenever he was talking about the NFL. And I also thought Andy was thrown into a really hell very early on here. Making the move to a different market, making the move to a different city, I think is daunting, frankly. And, he gets word, a week or two into that his son Mason is born 5 weeks early. And I can't imagine all of that happening. I'll never forget him calling me and telling me that was happening, that Nikki, his wife, was going into labor and, having it on speakerphone, and Maddie being like, can you imagine, the move? Yeah, I mean, they weren't even settling into their home in Irvington, all of that. And then
they hadn't even sold their other house in Louisville. So there was times when he was finishing the show and then driving to Louisville to help, sell the house out there and then coming back here and trying to unpack. I was, dude, how are you doing it?
Yeah, just a lot. And I say that with, all caps on the a lot part. So I thought he was a pro in how he worked. And I think it'd be really, really difficult to be in a different market like that and have all of it happening around you. And I thought it was really admirable how he handled Monday's show. I don't know, again, if people fully realize that, but I thought it was really, really admirable how he did that. So this industry is one that, boy, I love for many reasons, but it's a reminder it can be taken from you so quickly. So I know Andy will land on his feet. Certainly doesn't make it any easier whatsoever, but thinking about him and Nikki and who we affectionately called Mason, of course, who we affectionately called Little Gas. And selfishly, I was starting, I was pretty proud of what we were starting to build here in the morning. So thank you to our listeners for sticking with us. And right now, it'll be Mark, myself, and thank you to Kylan for helping us out. Kylan wears a lot of different hats in this building, so we appreciate her in producing for us here this week, and certainly thinking about Andy.
Yep, consummate pro, Andy, good friend. I would say good friends off the air, too. He was always, like I said, professional, always prepared. He had stuff. He'd have sound from things I'm like, I wouldn't even been on my radar and everything like that. So he over-prepared, but he did a great job of just having everything ready to go, always knew what he wanted to do. and just a good guy. So, I mean, it's tough in this business. There are a lot of jerks you find in this business. Andy's not one of those guys. He was a good guy on and off the air, and I feel for him, Nikki, and Mason. And, yeah, I hope them all the best, and, we're going to keep in touch. We're going to grab a beer at some point down the line.
1,000%. All right, on the other side, really cool project coming up in the northwest part of the state. What is it? We'll explain more next. on this Wednesday. And Mark Dykton, I feel like this next topic, if you will, the next project, you and I will be making a visit here.
Oh, yeah.
Potentially quite often as a combo of, 4 girls under the age of, 7, right? Is your oldest?
Oldest is 7, almost 8 in March. And then, 7,
So you add up,
almost 6, and almost 4.
and then I will have a 5-year-old coming up in June. So, you add up all of that. So I would say the Dykton girls and the Bowen girl could very well be visiting this place in the near future. Let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline to talk more about it. And fittingly, it is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Allison Barber joins us, former Fever president. That's probably how maybe most of our audience recently will remember her. Allison, good morning to you. Thank you for the time.
Well, good morning. I can't wait to meet all of your girls.
Well, we can't wait to meet your latest project. Before I start there, I was told by a close friend of yours to ask you about your usage of Oxford commas.
Oh, no, that's a terrible start today. That's awesome. I don't know. Are you for or against Oxford commas?
I mean, honestly, comma usage
You're
and me
Googling
probably
it?
don't
Are
go.
we Googling it?
Comma usage and me don't go hand in hand very well, which isn't very good for my written content on our website. But I married a Lubbers, for you unfamiliar. I know you and Teresa Lubbers are very close, so I reached out to her and she told me to ask you about that. So I'm probably against
I'm
Oxford
against
commas.
them because Teresa is against them, and I found out years ago that it's probably good to be on Teresa Lubbers' team, so I am.
Indeed it is. All right, speaking of your latest team, give us a little bit of intel on what's happening in the northwest part of the state.
Thank you, and happy National Girls and Women in Sports Day. It's great for us to have this conversation to tell you a little bit about Marella. So Marella is the country's first. So let's capture that moment. It's the country's first girls sport and leadership experience. And we're building it. We have 110 acres, and we are building this campus for girls ages 8 to 18 up on the Fair Oaks property. So we'll be right next to Fair Oaks Farms. And this will be, it's going to have, you think about this focus for girls. So it's going to have all of the sports for girls, for tournament play. In addition, we'll have a success center. So we'll work on things and provide education and training and great experiences and immersive experiences around mental health, developing mental health and physical health and nutrition and really sports science, the physiology of girls. So if you said, hey, my daughter is interested in sports, what's the best experience all the way around for her mental well-being, physical, sport well-being? It's going to be Marella.
So Allison Barber joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Allison, going a little bit more about the Marella Sports Complex that's going to be built. I mean, have we broken ground on this yet? What is the open date for it? And what will people all be able to do at this new sports complex once it is open?
I'm happy to. So Marella, it's named Marella in memory of Senator Birchbuy's wife, Marella Bai. She was not able to go to college because there was no Title IX. So we know that then Birchbuy went on to write Title IX. So we're naming it for Marella Bai. It is an indoor sports center where you'll play basketball, volleyball. We'll have indoor courts for soccer. We'll have an arena. We will have an M network. So we'll be training girls how to be sports broadcasters and engineers and camera people and podcasters. So that's all part of this facility. Then they'll have a separate success center where we'll run all the programs for mental health and nutritional health, coaching clinics, all of the things around that will be in the success center. And then the fields will have sports, lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, softball, rugby, and flag football. So all of the sports for girls ages 8 to 18 will break ground this summer and will be open in summer of 2026. So it's a fast build, but we think it's that important to do for girls, so we're going to do it.
Mark, go ahead and tweet that link out from our show account, marvellasports.com. The renderings, the pictures are absolutely awesome. Again, that's the voice of Allison Barber. Obviously, you certainly remember her from her time with the Fever here as president, and now she's shifted to such a cool endeavor in the northwest part of the state. Allison, I'm curious kind of why there. I mean, again, I know Mark and I both have been to Fair Oaks Farms with our family, and it is really smack dab when you think about it between Indy and Chicago. But I'm just curious what kind of led you to that part of our state.
Well, it starts with a few things. One, a really great partnership with Mike and his family who own Fair Oaks. And so their vision aligned with our vision around how do you do something new and special for girls. It's also an economic development play for Northwest Indiana. I'm from Lake County, and so to be right there up in that corridor to say, how do we build out a destination for people from Indiana and Illinois? Our model already demonstrates we're going to have people coming in from all over, that region and then beyond. So now we'll build additional facilities and hotels and restaurants. So think about how do you create in Indiana, the flagship will be Marella at Fair Oaks. It'll be a destination. Families will come and spend the weekend enjoying tournament play, and then also being able to just, jump in a golf cart or walk over to the farm and enjoy all of the wonderful things that the farm has to offer. We think the missions align so beautifully to create this family-friendly environment and the best-in-class of experiences for the girls who play sports.
Allison Barber joining us for a few more minutes on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Allison, obviously spent some time with the Fever. What are your thoughts now of the Fever with Caitlin Clark, the new additions in the offseason? How have you thought about how the Fever have attacked this new era of the sport?
Yeah, I'm excited to now be a fan. So I really, for us to draft Caitlin, my last year there was really transformational for girls sports, for the Fever, for our city, and we attracted people from really all over the world. We had fans coming in from Australia to watch the Fever play, and it just taught us that this momentum this is the special time where this momentum for girls in sports is at an all-time high. It made sense personally for me to tap out as a Fever to come onto this Marella team to say, let's really double down on what more we can do for girls through sports because of on my front row seat last year of seeing this growth and the spirit and momentum. I do think the world of the leadership at the Fever franchise, Pacer Sports Entertainment, my sense of things is the moves they're making are strategic and it's going to play out into very successful outcomes for our city, for the franchise. But I quickly switched hats and became a super fan. So I'm just watching with you of what's happening and cheering them on.
Well, Allison, I think I'll speak for Mark and I and both saying thank you. This is just such an awesome project. And as someone that, is the dad of a girl, this is so cool. And, I saw the renderings of it. They're eye-popping, and you're really blown away by the multiple phases of it, the connection, to Birch Bayh and Title IX and all of that. It's such a cool nod, I think, with the name of Marella. So congratulations on everything. I hope the process goes as smooth as possible from a construction standpoint. And thanks for sharing a little bit of info with us today.
Thank you. We'll see you and your girls at Marella soon.
I'll be keeping an eye on it because I'm going to be driving up there and checking out the scene every once in a while.
Say, you might have Mark with a hard hat on.
Hand me a shovel. I'm ready. Let's go.
Marvellasports.com. Again, very, very cool up there. Fair Oaks Farms. And I guess for those that aren't familiar maybe with that exact location, I mean, that's, maybe a little bit more of a drive from Indy than it is from like the south side of Chicago.
About 2 hours,
just mileage-wise, but still. Great location. Makes total sense. And, I guess you call it kind of like the Grand Park for girls?
Yeah, sounds like it.
In a way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're going to have all kinds of multi-sport facilities and everything like that, it sounds like. And they're actually going to have broadcasting classes and everything like that. So that's outstanding.
Yeah, it probably takes it a step further than honestly than
it's
just...
almost like a campus of...
Right.
Yeah. So that sounds really cool. I'm excited. I'm going to learn more about just saw some of the renderings earlier before we had Allison on. And it looks outstanding, and I obviously know that area very well. I'm excited for it. Would love to bring my daughters at some point to check it out and everything like that. So, check it out, do some sports, grab a milkshake, pet a pig.
What
more can you ask for?
What a day right there. You're checking all the boxes.
Yeah.
All right, coming up tomorrow again, we will we'll look back on the Colts Super Bowl run. 18-year anniversary was yesterday. We targeted Thursday, though, because tonight's kind of a quiet night locally sports-wise. Really, outside of Butler, you don't have a lot in action. And tomorrow is also when we'll find out about the Hall of Fame class for 2025. Again, first balloters, Eli Manning, Terrell Suggs, Luke Kuechly, Steve Smith, Marshall Yanda, Adam Vinatieri, also a first balloter, Reggie Wayne on the ballot for a sixth time. So we'll find out that class late tomorrow. We'll have Marlon Jackson join us to look back on that Super Bowl run. We will talk a little NBA as well. It's trade deadline day, so we won't ignore that by any means. Rick Carlisle is scheduled to join us here coming up tomorrow. So we've got a busy show. We had a busy show today. I feel like just like recapping a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to recap.
From last night. Tomorrow, it's a little reminiscing in a positive light. And also, we'll keep you abreast NBA trade deadline-wise.
A lot of bad basketball to recap today, a lot of good football to recap tomorrow. We go down memory lane.
That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have settled. Probably the hottest debate of the day was nothing about Braden Smith and how great he was last night, or Tyrese Haliburton and scoring 0 points, or Indiana basketball looking like Indiana basketball under Mike Woodson. None of that. It was, are Thin Mints overrated?
Yeah, and we are in the majority here. The Thin Mints are overrated. The no crowd, 55.4%, 44.6% say yes, but we are in the majority here, so we are pulling away.
And this was brought up by our producer, Kylan, who is adamant the Thin Mints are overrated. I don't want to act like I've been creeping on our computer here, but I have seen at least 7 or 8 different new Twitter accounts created within the last hour to execute votes for our Thin Mints overrated here. So,
hey, if they're not going to have my back, I'll have mine at least.
Yeah.
Other people know. The YouTube comments, they get it.
Unbelievable.
Like I said, it's just people trying to knock down the GOAT. You try to knock down Patrick Mahomes because you're sick of him. You're not trying to knock down the Thin Mints and trying to prop up something else.
Thank you, listener Kevin, his daughter Lucy. I've bought 2 boxes of Thin Mints. If we can get those delivered a little quicker, that would be wonderful.
Oh. You've got some pull, friend.
Well,
So.
I don't know.
We'll see. Otherwise, I'll eat them myself while you're on vacation.
Freeze one of those boxes.
Okay, I will.
Certainly. Rick Carlisle, again, you're going to join us tomorrow, and we'll have Marlon Jackson as well. Thank you to Zach Kiefer live from the Super Bowl. Jared Weiss talking a little national NBA chatter with him. I was at 9, and then Allison Barber right there in that latest conversation. So we'll get you set coming up tomorrow. Again, a little Super Bowl look back, and also Rick Carlisle going to join us. Everybody have a great, great Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on The Fan.